Stories number 1. Was I a jerk for not sharing my location with my wife? I am 41, have been with my wife F, 37 for 6 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter. My wife decided to be a SHM after our baby was born and didn't go back to work after her maternity leave ended. We live in Canada. We divide the housework and childcare equally. I watch the baby 2 nights a week so she can go to the gym for a little mental health break. I asked her if I can have 1 night a week quiet time. She asked, "What is that?" I said, "Just pretend I'm not here. I'll be in our room reading or listening to music for 1 hour only." She agreed. Every single time she came to our room either to talk or tell me that she was bored. When I reminded her about our deal, she got upset and said I was making excuses to avoid spending time with her. Another time, I told her then I would be going to the local coffee shop to read, and just 1 hour of quiet time. My wife decided to do a surprise visit there. She said baby wanted to surprise her daddy. I smiled and said I just wanted a little quiet time. She sat down and talked so loud I had to say, "Let's just go home." This time I decided to go to the public library. My wife asked where I was going. I told her I hadn't decided yet, but as per our deal, it's my night. She got upset because I was refusing to share where I was going. That 1 hour quiet time was heavenly. No one called my name and I came back home so happy. When I came home, my wife was furious. She said she wanted to check my phone, then asked if I was seeing or talking to anyone. I laughed. I said I was at the library. You can ask the librarians if they saw me. She has been really cold to me and says I should have shared my location since she does well. I know she goes to the gym. Was I a jerk for refusing to share where I was? I decided to stay longer at work in future and take advantage of quiet office since now my wife know about the library. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Does your wife get an hour of free time? Does your wife get to spend time with you because it sounds like she's desperate for time with you? It could be that you're an introvert and you need to recharge your batteries by being alone, and she's an extrovert who needs to recharge your batteries by being with you. Reply, I'm gonna ask her if she is interested in 1 hour quiet time or hang out with her friends time. I know she goes on lunch dates with other moms but with our daughter, so it's not exactly me time. We watch shows together and cuddle every night. Does that count? Commenter 2. The post is written in a way that paints you in the best of lights. We divide the housework and childcare equally. I watch the baby 2 nights a week so she can go to the gym for a little mental health break. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt regarding the housework. But the childcare, if she's a SHM, she has your child 7 days a week, and you are maybe helping her 5 nights a week, and the other 2 nights you graciously allow her to go to the gym. Since this post is regarding whether you're a jerk or not for sharing your location with your wife, NTJ, if the post had been a different question, you would definitely be a massive jerk. Reply, I'm not trying to make myself look like a martyr. I wanted to mention that I'm not an absentee husband or dad. I also don't expect her to do all the housework. I live in this house, so it's my responsibility too. Commenter 3, I think she's maybe insecure. I'm too a Sam and we can get in our heads sometimes. That's why she is randomly appearing on your quiet time. Maybe she thinks you're having an affair. What about having also a time just for the 2 of you? Take 1 day of the week and go for a walk or for some coffee, just you 2. She will feel much better and probably won't disturb you on your time. NTA for not sharing your location, but there are some changes you can do to improve the situation. Reply, honestly, if she had promised me not to interrupt, I had no problem to take my alone time break at home. Quick update, not sharing the location with my wife. I got so many DM asking if I talked to her and why I needed alone time. Because it really makes a difference in my mental health status. I really don't know what to do. She is now fully convinced I'm having an affair. In her conspiracy plot, I need alone time because I resent her, and I was alone with some AP that night. She refuses to even have a calm conversation with me. I told her I can have my quiet time at home if it puts her mind at ease, only if she promises not to interrupt me. She made a snarky comment that what would my AP thinks. I just stopped trying to convince her. Things have been rocky. I have no plan of taking my quiet time anymore, at least until things get better. As example of how she interrupts my alone time at home. One time I was lying in bed watching the rerun of an old sitcom on our bedroom TV. Just to decompress, she opened the door asking what I was watching. I said Seinfeld. Then she sat down and kept saying how boring and overrated this show was. Then went on saying how Jerry Seinfeld is a gross man. Then she said this show is not even funny. Then on and on. I told her I wasn't watching the show for educational purposes. She said I could be watching a decent show together now, but you chose to watch this crap. I said we do that every night after we put the baby to bed. She said then why wasting your time watching this, I just turned off TV. I was done. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. What do people say around here? If they accuse you of cheating, check their phone. Reply, okay. I briefly checked hers. Nothing suspicious, but she did rant to her best friend about me. She said she knows I'm cheating but feels crazy because she can't prove it. Her best friend told her to trust her heart. I honestly don't know how to prove myself. She did check my phone. She has all my passwords. I have nothing to hide. Commenter 2. She sounds exhausting, to be honest. Was she like this before the kid was born? Sounds like she misses being free to choose her time and day plans and resents that 1 hour you have to yourself. Reply, no, but she was working full-time back then. I used to go to my running club and she would go to the gym. I gave up on that since I'm trying to cut expenses. Now we are one income family. In return, I asked for quiet time. Commenter 3. By this, it sounds like she needs to get a part-time job so she can socialize a bit. She's probably going nuts from the isolation to the house and kid. It might help her. Reply, her old boss suggested that, but she said no. Commenter 4. Question, maybe it was covered and I missed it. How often do you two date? Do you have a regular sitter? Instead of her going to the gym alone, you both go? Then gently tell her, honey, you need a part-time job or a hobby that gets you out more. Part-time job would give spending money or bank it so we can take vacations together. We can save and pick a place and go. We team this together. What do you think? Reply, my in-law live close to us. They watch our daughter sometimes. We go to the movies and dinner sometimes. We don't go on dates like we used to. On the weekends we do family stuff with our daughter, like going to a fair or something kid-related. My wife actually goes to the gym with her friend. She hates doing stuff alone or even being alone. Commenter 5. This is crazy making. Your request seems perfectly reasonable to me, but she couldn't honor it when you tried to carve out a single hour at home. And as soon as you went somewhere else, she stalked you. I would have turned off my damn location too. How long has she been Sam? How often do the two of you get away for some quality couples time? Reply, she had 18 months paid mat leave and decided not to go back after that. Update 2. Not sharing my location with my wife. My life has been a living hell. I checked her phone. There was nothing suspicious. She had a long conversation with her best friend about how she knows I'm cheating, and that's why I'm avoiding her and want alone time. She said she was frustrated because she couldn't prove it. But she just knew. Her best friend told her to trust her heart. I tried multiple times to sit her down and talk to her, but it ended up her yelling at me and she is being more upset. She is very cold to me and avoids any conversations with me. Mentally, I'm a mess. I wanted to go for a long walk yesterday. I told her where I was going. She rolled her eyes and said more alone times. Or mistress misses you? I decided not to go. I really don't know how to prove myself. I gave up on any alone time. She doesn't even talk to me, so date nights are gone too. I ruined my marriage over one quiet alone reading time at the library. Added later. She doesn't go to the gym anymore. I asked her why. She said, why do you care? You were planning to bring your mistress home when I'm not home? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Is this new behavior from her? Does she react these ways when you go to hang out with your friends? Reply, I haven't gone out with my friends in a long time before having kids. She had no problem at all if I had gone out with my friends to see a hockey game or just have dinner. She knows all my friends and their wives very well. Commenter 3. It feels by her behavior like she is very lonely, which is why she's constantly trying to start up conversations with you. That might be what's at the heart of this. When she had a job, she was not lonely. Reply. Her boss offered her old job many times, Even gave her the option to work part-time. She said she doesn't want to work anymore. I can't force her either, I completely agree with you. She was much happier when she was working. Commenter 1. Her friend is filling her up with stories. Has that friend hated you by any chance? Reply. She doesn't hate me as far as I'm aware. She got a divorce a few years ago and kept mentioning all these signs sound familiar, and my wife should trust her heart. Final update. Not sharing my location with my wife. I tried to make Mother's Day special for her. I made a handprint homemade card with our kid for her. We, our kid and I, but technically from our kid, made special breakfast for her. She said thanks to our kid and hugged her. But things were the same between us. I was planning to BBQ for dinner. I realized I needed to replace the propane tank. I told her I was going to buy one. I was stupid enough to stop by at the local French bakery to buy special dessert for Mother's Day. There was a lineup, but I thought it worth it, since they have her favorite dessert. And it would be a nice surprise for her. When I came home, my wife lost it. She started screaming that I was out with my mistress, that's why it took so long. I showed her the dessert. She grabbed it from my hand and threw it in the trash. Said it's a cover for my affair. I told her how on earth I could possibly had met my hypothetical mistress and bought this in less than an hour. She told me she was done. She grabbed our kid and left. She has been staying at her parents'. I tried contacting her, but she doesn't reply. I guess the next step is talking to an attorney about shared custody. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Nope. She's been checked out because she believed all the shit her friend was spewing. Lawyer up ASAP, document all her crazy behaviors, all the incidents, any emails and texts exchanged, and try to see if you can get an emergency court order for your kid, because your wife sounds seriously unstable right now. If it would help, talk to her parents. Let them know what's going on because this isn't normal. She's unhinged. Commenter 2. My guess is a mental breakdown. She's cheated way back and it's guilt. She wants out and is using this as an excuse, or she's being gaslighted by friends who love drama. Commenter 3. Actually, you might want to contact her parents. Try to sit down with them if they are reasonable people because it sounds like she's having some kind of mental health issue. You guys might have to force her to get help. New update on my life. Not sharing the location with my wife. I spoke with an attorney like I mentioned before. For now, things are moving towards setting up a custody arrangement. And I'll also have to pay alimony and child support since she has no source of income. She is staying at our place, but she does let me visit our kid, which I'm thankful for. She still says I broke the family by being selfish and not fighting for it. I feel guilty because I wish I could be with my kid all the time, questioning myself that maybe I was selfish. It's heartbreaking. But it seems like my wife has made up her mind. I've also started individual therapy because I realized I can't control her suspicions or rebuild trust by myself if she isn't willing. What I can control is how I show up for my kid and how I handle this whole situation. For the record, I never cheated on her, and no, I'm not seeing anyone now. I honestly have no idea what's going on with her at this point. I'm not sure if she is seeing anyone, but that's none of my business anyways. My focus is entirely on my kid and making sure she feels loved and supported. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I have told my wife 1,000,000 times more, like a dozen. But still, I will fight the whole world for you. Even myself. The only person I will never fight for you is you. You can't fight for your family when your wife is who you need to fight. At that point it's over. You got this, man. Good luck, commenter 2. Get a better lawyer. She had a job before and decided to be a S-hum. So she has earning capacity. She needs to get a new job and you need to fight for more time with your child. You also need to force a sale of the house. Split between the two of you. Commenter 3. Your wife. Ex-wife has serious mental issues she needs to deal with. It's a shame that you couldn't give her the help she needed. I hope one day she realizes how badly she messed up. If she doesn't get professional help and get a grip, she will never have a lasting relationship with anyone. No one will ever put up with that kind of stupid bullshit. No one should ever have to deal with unfounded accusations. Does she really not understand you just wanted 1 hour to yourself since she gets alone time? She should, she agreed. This is 100% her fault. It's really pathetic she couldn't handle not bothering you for 1 hour. If she could have followed thought with what she agreed to, none of that would have happened. You sure she wasn't screwing someone during her alone time? Commenter 4. My husband, a divorce attorney, has a statement that I refer to often. It takes two people to get married, but only one to get a divorce. It applies here. Your wife decided to get divorced, and nothing you can do can change her mind. Moving forward, focusing on your child, and working on yourself in therapy is what you do now. And if you have a pastor, rabbi, etc., I recommend you visit with that person too, to help your spirit find comfort as you rebuild your life. As well, I'm sorry your wife turned out to be this way, but you gained a beautiful child and some life experience. Go forward with that. Stories number 2. My 38F sister, 34F, made up a dead brother to her spouse, 35M, and in-laws, 60s M and F. I accidentally outed the lie, but why am I the bad guy here? Usually a lurker, but something happened tonight that has me incredibly confused. Apologies in advance for the length. Backstory: I'm the eldest of 4 sisters. We're stair-stepped, 2 years apart. I'm Meg, 38. Joe is 36, Beth is 34, and Amy is 32. Our parents used to joke about how they kept trying for a boy, but finally gave up after girl number 4. Not gonna lie, it hurt our feelings a little, especially Amy. But they stopped that and assured us they wouldn't change anything. Everyone us has at least one daughter. I am the only sister that has a son, at 17. He's the eldest grandchild, and I'm fairly certain he's my dad's favorite person in the world. They are best friends. It's adorable. Okay, now that you have the backstory history, let's talk about tonight. My son, who is very intelligent and absolutely crushed high school, recently received his acceptance letter to a pretty prestigious university. Full ride, we are incredibly proud. My folks wanted to throw him a little congratulatory party, and tonight worked for all of our schedules, which is no small feat. 4 different families with 11 kids between them. So we all headed to the folks' house for pizza and cake. At one point, Amy brought up that it is Sibling Appreciation Day, and Mom said she wanted all of her girls to say what we appreciate about our sisters, and we go youngest to eldest, with most of the compliments going to me, as I was kind of a second mom to them. I told each of my sisters how much I loved them, among other things, and then finished my speech off saying something like, "And I really appreciate that we didn't have any gross boys stinking up our house." All of us but Beth and her husband laugh. Beth's eyes got really big, and her husband, Chase, looked at me like I was something he scraped off the bottom of his shoe. Suddenly he says, "That's pretty fucked up." I said something like, "I don't care, Chase. I've smelled you after your workouts. It's pretty bad." And he got even more mad and said, "How you could talk about Tyler like that?" And Beth starts losing her mind, guys. She's grabbing him by the arm and begging him to hush, saying they need to go home now, etc. So naturally I'm like, who is Tyler? Well, friends, apparently, Tyler is Beth's twin that died during childbirth, and it made our folks and me so depressed that nobody is allowed to speak of him or reference him, ever. Beth forbade him from ever mentioning to any family member. After Chase told us this, nobody said a word. It was so damn tense finally. I just kind of bluntly said, "Hi Mo, I'm not sure why, but Beth lied to you about this. I think you guys should talk about it. But I don't want to hear anything else about this tonight, as we're here to celebrate my son." After that, Beth burst into tears and ran into her old bedroom with Chase, Mom, and Joe following her. The party never fully recovered, and they took off pretty shortly after that. I stayed behind to help clean, and so my dad and son could hang some more. While I'm doing the dishes, my mom scolded me pretty harshly about calling Beth a liar. "If the baby shoe fits, Mother." My dad said I wasn't wrong, but I embarrassed Beth. What the hell was I supposed to do? I was getting chastised over a lie. Absolutely not. Beth also texted me that I fucked her over, and a text from Chase's phone told me I was the actual liar sister, and everyone knows that. Amy is on my side, but she and Beth always butted heads. Joe claims she's neutral, but she also told me I didn't have to call her out like that. What the hell else was I supposed to do? Just take the lashing? And why is everyone acting like me? Calling out what I consider to be a pretty heavy lie is worse than the lie itself. How do we resolve this situation? I love my sisters so damn much. They are my best friends. But this is so weird and so wrong to put on me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I can't imagine any other response. I really can't. Were you seriously expected to lie along with her? I think that is shocking. Reply, I have no idea what she was expecting. I have lied for her before, but saying she's at my house while she's really getting boudoir photos done for him is not the same as lying about a whole person who never existed. It's beyond bizarre. Commenter 2. I'm kind of impressed that after all of that, she managed to convince her husband that you were the liar. Of course, if he still believes her, he's dumb as a brick. I'd think there is proof enough on her birth certificate as it will state she was a single birth. Reply, I will say, Chase is not a dummy, and he's typically not malicious. And although nobody really backed me up about this being a lie, at least not in front of me, I think it's pretty obvious that I was telling the truth. As everyone else was obviously confused and dead silent in the moment, I have not responded to the texts. As I'm not looking to burn bridges, I've made many mistakes, and my sisters have graciously forgiven me. I'm just flummoxed and a little hurt. Commenter 3. This is very weird. I'm confused at why your parents aren't embarrassed by your sister's behavior, especially trying to keep up the lie afterwards and saying you're lying. Is she mentally okay? Does she have a history of lying? Reply, we all lied as kids, but I assumed she grew out of it as an adult. We also all exhibited some attention-seeking behavior, but again, age-appropriate, especially for a family with 4 kids and 2 parents who worked full-time. My parents are hippies and very much live and let live kind of vibe. But this feels icky to me, so I'm a little surprised they're not more upset about it. Then again, they never punished us in front of each other, so they could be dealing with, or planning to deal with the situation behind the scenes. Either way, Beth is way too old to be making up dead sibling stories. Commenter 4. Your sister dug herself a weird hole, is now mad she has to dig her way out of it, and is placing that anger on you for accidentally handing her the shovel. If she wants to blame anyone for being caught in a lie, she can look in the mirror. How do you fix it? Your sister has to pull her head out of her ass and apologize for putting you all in that position. And then you can think about apologizing for being blunt about it. But, to be honest, I don't feel you did anything wrong exactly here. You had no idea what was going on, why you were being accused of being a bad person, and literally just wanted the focus back on your son's achievements. It's not like you accidentally spilled a secret you were supposed to keep. Your sister created this entire mess and should probably explain to you guys why she did it. Reply, I appreciate your input and kind words. I don't like drama, so I find it best to just kinda stop it in its tracks. And my son, we recently got an autism diagnosis, what was formerly referred to as Asperger's, and it's messed with his head a little. He's always been so bad socially, and really struggled making friends. As a result, his cousins got the bulk of the attention. He was really proud of himself, and I wanted him to remember this little get-together because it was all about him for once. Commenter 5. Your sister is a freak weirdo. Making up a dead twin for what? Sympathy? Attention? She fucked up and everyone knows it. Why anyone would want to cover up her lie is beyond me. She made her bed. Let her deal with the repercussions of this outrageous lie. Question though, did or have your parents tried to set the record straight with her idiot hubby? Or are they staying silent about this alleged twin baby that never existed? Reply, when I told Chase she was lying, nobody backed me up, but I believe it was kind of obvious. BC, nobody refuted my claims. That coupled with Beth frantically trying to get her husband to leave. Chase is smart. He can put 2 and 2 together. I mentioned in another comment that our parents never punished us, nor really got onto us in front of each other. So I would like to think they're handling things on that end behind the scenes, and trying to appeal to my dislike of drama and empathy to get me to forgive her. I don't find the lie unforgivable. I think it's bizarre and I don't appreciate it, but I don't think our relationship is over. I love her. I took her on her first date, took her and a boy to get ice cream, and they held hands. We lied to our parents about that one. I helped take care of her when she was postpartum. BC Chase had to work. She's got my heart, you know. Commenter 6. Just to be clear, you do recognize this level of lie as a mental health disorder, correct? While I am not a therapist, this very much sounds like some strain of Munchausen's. Again, not a therapist, just therapy adjacent in training and work. So I have some familiarity. So get her some professional help. This isn't just a cry for help. This is a sign of a broken brain that requires professional help and maybe even medical interventions. Reply, I work in healthcare, albeit not directly in the mental health field. But I am a little familiar with various disorders. I actually do think she's a hypochondriac. One of my nieces is always coming down with something they are not. Or my sister definitely has Crohn's disease. She doesn't. She won't drink milk if it's within 3 days of the best by date. Refuses bread pudding because you use old bread to make them. Won't eat brownies I baked from scratch the day before because they're old. So I know she's got some issues, but hey, we all have issues. I'm pretty emotionally closed off except to my spouse and children. Some people think that makes me a b-boy. I try not to be too judgmental because I'm definitely not perfect. But I'm judging the F out of this. Update, okay. I think we have some answers, Ray. The events that occurred last night. I do want to tell everyone who took time to give advice or kind words. Thank you. I honestly couldn't read everything. I was and am exhausted. But I did get an idea of how I wanted to approach everything, thanks to the advice given. My post says it was removed, and I'm unsure why. So hopefully this one will stay. I'll get to the update in a few. I just wanted to answer some comments real quick. 1. This is fake. I wish it was. I really wish my mind worked in a way where I could make things up like this. Alas, my imagination is lacking. Your parents named you after Little Women? This is probably partially to blame for the fake comments. These are just placeholder names I used, as there are 4 sisters in that novel, My Parents Are Hippies, and gave us some pretty noticeable names. If I used our real ones, on the off chance any of our friends read this, they'd know immediately this was our family. 3. Beth is continuing to lie and Chase is believing it. And your mom and Joe threw you under the bus too. Chase. I think he knew I was being truthful. Also, I said the text came from his phone. I was actually thinking Beth sent it, as that's not Chase's vibe. About Mom and Joe. They didn't throw me under the bus, but I'll go into more detail soon. 4. Is it possible my mom had twins and I just forgot, or didn't know about the death? Absolutely not. I was at all of my sister's births. I don't remember Joe's, but I do remember Beth and Amy's, and there were no multiples, no deaths, no funerals, no depression. 5. The birth certificate will prove it. It sure would, yes, but I'm not about to try to strong-arm my sister into showing her husband her birth certificate. 6. Your sister is mentally ill, also the golden child, and you're the scapegoat. I'm not about to say my sister is sick, but I do think she has some issues. As we all do, there's no golden child and scapegoat in this family. My parents were and are really good about treating all of us fairly and equally. 7. You should have been more tactful, pulled her aside, not called her a liar. Had I known that Tyler was my dead brother, I never would have asked who he was. Chase and I tease each other a lot, and I honestly thought he was about to come out with some kind of funny joke, a la D's nuts, Ray. My lack of tact? I don't care. I think it's pretty lacking in tact to make up a whole dead sibling. And really, facts are facts, she lied. And that's that. The night was about my son, so I squashed the issue and chose to move forward, hoping to end the conversation with as little drama as possible. Okay, so now up to the update. After a night of barely sleeping and my blood pressure dangerously high, I called my mom this morning fully ready to let out an emotionally charged tirade about how I feel they unfairly threw me under the bus and took Beth's side when she objectively did the worse thing. My mom answered the phone apologizing and asked me to just listen. When she and Joe followed Beth and Chase to Beth's room, Mom did tell Chase that Tyler was not real, and this is an issue between her and Chase, and they should probably leave, because she didn't want the evening ruined. She did get on to me, but it was mostly out of sympathy and empathy for Beth, and she recognized it wasn't okay. She apologized for that. She spoke with Chase this morning, and Beth, who is the one who sent me the text from Chase's phone, finally came clean early this morning, after hours of denying the lie, something I didn't mention, as I didn't feel it was pertinent to the story. Is Beth's eldest daughter, Madison, isn't Chase's biological daughter. He's been around since Madison was 2. Also kind of pertinent is that Chase is a first responder. He loves to be a hero, and he's very good in that role. He met Beth doing victims advocacy, and as such, I believe they both view him as saving Beth. This has long been speculated, but it's not exactly our place to say anything, and we all love Chase. He is an amazing person, and Beth is no dummy. She picked up on Chase's hero complex immediately. It appears that, in an effort to make herself look more sympathetic, vulnerable, broken, she lied about having a twin brother that died in childbirth. I guess being in an abusive relationship and having a small child just wasn't enough. She did not have to do that. They've been together 10 years now, and not once did she come clean. To me, that proves a clear pattern of deceit and manipulation. However, I'm not going to speculate on her mental health problems or reasonings for not coming clean. That is for her and her husband to deal with. Neither one of them have called or texted me to apologize, and I'm honestly unsure if they will. Beth is more of the rug-sweeping type. While I'm a confront issues head-on type, I will not be cutting my sister off for this, though. I love her, and at the end of the day, I just want her to be happy and healthy. I do hope that this whole issue will cause her to rethink some of her life choices, and maybe she can get some therapy. I think we could all use therapy. To be honest, that's where we are right now. My mom did not offer any information about how Beth and Chase are doing, and I did not ask. It's not my business. I have not heard from Joe, but Amy and I have been texting all morning, and she is being my best good friend right now and providing a lot of support. Hopefully, we can all move forward and grow together in the future. Thanks again for the support you all have sent my way. Top comments, commenter 1. I am glad your mother apologized, but your sister really owes you, and the entire family, an apology. This was a really selfish and weird thing to do. She also owes Chase and his family an apology. I hope she gets some help for this. Good luck. Commenter 2. Your sister could probably benefit from therapy. I will never understand why people think it's a good idea to lie about something so easily disproven. Don't lie about anything and you won't have situations blow up like this. I hope she comes to her senses and apologizes to you. Commenter 3. I think your family needs to do a sit-down with your sister because this isn't normal behavior at all. She lied for 10 years about a dead brother. Y'all need to call this behavior out since she's way too old to be acting like this. And doing nothing is showing her that you guys will accept similar or the same type of behavior in the future. Commenter 4. Well, this is why she continues to do this nonsense at her big-ass age. No one holds her accountable. You can't move forward and grow together if people don't take accountability. Your entire family enables her in the worst way. Final update, TW. Death of a loved one. Grief. Depression. Divorce. Well, a lot has happened in the past months. I read all your comments multiple times, and I heard you. I faced some very hard truths about my family and our dynamics, but mostly I grieved. About a month after I made my original post, my dad passed away. It was very unexpected. Massive stroke. The worst part was Mom was out of town, so my dad died alone. My son talked to him that same day. They made plans for the next week, and then my dad was gone. It's been a very hard few months. I started therapy mostly to deal with navigating life without Dad. But my therapist made a lot of good points about our family dynamic. Mostly that I was parentified and a people pleaser. That keeping the peace comes at a price. And that price was my needs being put on the back burner. And as a result, I keep people at an arm's length BC of this, and I'll be damned if she wasn't right. So let's rewind a little. During the week or so after Dad died, Mom was lost. They've been married over 40 years, so no surprise there. And as the eldest sibling, I stepped up big time. Joe and I already knew a little about our parents' end-of-life wishes, and we chose to go forward with cremation. Mom agreed this is her wish as well, as did Amy. Guess who didn't? If you guessed Beth, you'd be right. She just had a complete meltdown, wailing over how she couldn't stand the thought and will not allow it. And blah blah blah. This is probably the first instance of me shutting her ass down. I told her, in no uncertain terms, that this wasn't her choice. It was our father's preference, and it was happening regardless. Next, she was wandering through the house, trying to pick out shit she wanted. Before Mom had even given us her blessing, when she started, Mom asked her to please stop. Let her sort some stuff first, and then she will give a yes or no. When Beth asked what she needed to sort out, Mom mentioned Dad's watch collection. There was one specifically for my son, and when Beth inquired as to which one, Mom refused to answer. Beth insisted that wasn't fair. She should have first pick, blah blah blah. Mom and Joe apparently shut that shit down with a quickness. I wasn't there, but my son is now wearing the first luxury watch my dad ever bought, and he is so proud. Don't worry though. All the grands have something special. Next, she got absolutely plastered at his end-of-life ceremony, went around wailing and making literally the whole thing about her grief and how her wishes weren't respected. And before I could snap and believe me, I was this close. Chase dragged her ass out of venue and I'm not sure what happened. But when they got home, police were called. Beth was arrested, and my niece ended up with my mom for the night. My Bill did have some bruises to back him up. Despite Beth calling us, nobody bailed her ass out. We are just done with it. She did get released on her own recognizance, and only ended up with some community service and a fine. Chase was more than willing to do therapy with her, but she started drinking even more, and as a result is being more aggressive with both him and the kids. There was another situation, and long story short, Chase is divorcing her and petitioning for full custody. He has asked us to write letters on his behalf, and I believe all of us are going to do so. I don't know what is going on with my sister, but she is on a downward spiral, and it's so sad to see. She refuses to speak with anyone, and I'm just done trying. I'd already decided to cut her off after the bullshit at Dad's end-of-life ceremony, but this solidified it. I won't be updating again. I'm washing my hands of all of this. I hope my sister gets help, but it'll take a lot of work, and she's never been one to want to put in the work. I'm putting myself first, for once, and concentrating on my children, my husband and myself. Thanks for listening to me vent. Y'all are almost as good as therapy. Stories number 3. Aita for warning my sister. I would leave her off the wedding guest list if she doesn't stop pushing me to ask Mom's husband to walk me down the aisle. My sister 22F and I 29F share the same biological parents. I was 9 and she was 2 when our dad died, and I was 11 and she was 4 when our mom remarried. For lots of reasons, we don't have the same relationship with Mom's second husband. To my sister, he's Dad. He's the best guy in the world, and she will scream from the rooftops to defend him. A few years ago, she went no contact with our dad's parents and siblings because she took offense to them calling us his little girls in a card they left on his grave. She told them she was our stepfather's little girl. She actually said we both were, and that Dad didn't raise us like he did. This was the first time we ever had a real fight between us. Though we had bickered and disagreed on this topic before, because I told her he was not and would never be my dad, she accused our grandparents, aunts and uncles, of disrespecting our stepfather and of turning me against my family, and she told them she hoped they'd join Dad like they wanted. To so bad since they wouldn't come to terms with who our real dad is now. The fight between us continued beyond my sister cutting Dad's family out of her life. She told me she had no idea I would be so set in my ways still, and that she thought I'd have seen things clearer being older. I told her it's because I'm older that I don't see it the same. I told her nobody replaced my dad. She told me it wasn't normal to have someone else raise you and to feel like they weren't your real parent. I reminded her I was 11 when he married Mom, so he didn't even raise me as long as Dad did. Then she said I had known him longer though, and parenting doesn't end at 18. I pointed out I no longer lived with them at 18, and I never went to him for parenting or for support. She argued he loved me as much as her, and he didn't deserve to be the guy Mom married. This fight lasted close to 5 weeks, and I had to take some time from her before it turned into something physical. She got so worked up I expected it to become that. We did make up, kinda. But we're still very much not on the same page about Mom's husband. We also had a smaller fight over this topic around Father's Day, because it was the 20th one without Dad, and she didn't like my post to Dad and felt it invalidated Mom's husband. And maybe it did in her eyes, because he became our dad when he married Mom to her. But the reality is he only became her dad and never mine. And I'm not even close to him or to Mom anymore, because they could never wrap their heads around me not accepting him as my dad or my parent. Now the fight has turned to my wedding, and the fact Mom's second husband will not be father of the bride, will not walk me down the aisle, get a dance, or have a standout place at the wedding. He's Mom's +1, and that's it for me. He'll be acknowledged in a toast with her, but that's it. My sister doesn't like it, and has made it her mission to force my hand into asking him. She even went behind my back and told him I was going to ask, and had finally come around and started a whole shit show between me and Mom over it. Mom's husband was too busy sulking over not being asked to fight it out with me. And that's a whole other thing. I won't get into it here. I confronted my sister over what she did. She said she was trying to get me to do the right thing. We argued and it turned into another fight. This is when I told her I would leave her off the guest list if she doesn't stop pushing. My sister told me I have always hated her for loving Mom's husband, for not wanting Dad to be her dad, but to have him as her dad because he's alive. She told me she never understood picking some dead guy over someone still alive who wanted to be our dad. She said I ruined our family. I told her I couldn't take my love away from Dad and give it to somebody else, and I couldn't love somebody who tried to make me love them, and tried to take a spot claimed by another. My sister got incredibly frustrated and started cussing me out, but then she told me I was being an ass, and threatening to keep her away from my wedding was to punish her when she didn't deserve it, and that I was asking for too much. I told her I was serious, and I walked away from the fight, and I have refused to engage since. She has tried, and she has told me I can't keep her away from my wedding. I'm not being fair, and she loves me and doesn't want to miss her only sister getting married. But I'm seriously thinking I might need to keep her away. ETA. When I talked about what Mom's husband would not be at my wedding, I should have said that was the plan before things kicked off. Now neither Mom or her husband are invited because of the argument that happened after my sister lied. Comments. Commenter 1. Why are you doing this to yourself? NTA. Your sister should have been disinvited months ago. I don't know why you keep mulling about. She's determined to get her way or ruin your wedding. Commenter 2. NTA. Disinvite her. If Mom doesn't come, oh well. Reply, Mom already isn't coming. Her and her husband were taken off the list after the fight we had over my sister's lie, and me not asking him to save his feelings. Commenter 3. No, your family just doesn't have boundaries. No one should have forced you to call your stepfather Dad. And he should have been content being an extra support rather than the only father you knew. Your sister is weird for projecting the love she feels for him onto you. Like it doesn't lessen her love, it's just different for you, and that's okay. Your mom also needs to get a grip and stop trying to force your love for your step-parent. It should always be a child's choice. Reply. That's been an issue since day one of Mom's husband meeting us. My sister and I had different reactions. Hers was what they wanted, and mine wasn't. They pushed and pushed, and my sister pushed, but way less as a kid. Now all three of them think they can push. Only I can do way more about it now. Commenter 4. I have better questions. Why didn't your stepdad grow some balls and step up and say to your sister, while I appreciate you loving me like I am your father, what you're doing to your sister is extremely inappropriate and harmful. What? Did he not notice for 18 years that something was extremely wrong between you and your sister? Or did he just sit on his throne, thinking that if his younger stepchild thinks of him as real dad, then the older must too? 2. Why didn't your mom grow some spine and step in during those 18 years? Or did she also have some delusional dreams about how you would magically grow daughterly feelings for her new husband? NTA, BTW. Your sister seems like she has some issues. The ones that are usually treated by therapy. The death of your father might have left a scar that she is desperately trying to fix. Thus, her behavior. Reply. Both my mom and her husband had those expectations. They set them. They were pushy too and were taken off the guest list for that reason. Stories number 4. My fiancé was tricked and lost our down payment and savings. My fiancé was selling his old mountain bike online. Someone messaged my fiancé with an offer, and this person said they would send my fiancé the funds in advance and send their cousin to pick up the bike the next day. My fiancé had promised me he would only accept pickup in person, with cash in hand. For context, and so this post makes sense. In Canada, the main way and safest transferring funds done is through your bank. It is tied to your bank account. You can only transfer what you have in your bank account, and even then there is a daily limit. It is also tied to your identity since it's tied to your bank account. My fiancé told the buyer he would accept a transfer. This is where the scam started. The buyer sent it, but he accidentally added an extra zero to the amount. My fiancé told the buyer he would transfer it back since it was a mistake. He told my fiancé he got locked out of his bank due to the mistake with the previous transfer, so my fiancé should transfer it to the buyer's cousin's account. My fiancé did that. I have no idea why my fiancé sent back the whole amount instead of the extra minus the payment for the bike. The buyer sent another transfer, and the same thing happened. Then the buyer asked my fiancé to use a different app that starts with a P since he was still locked out of his bank account. He sent it to my fiancé, but again he added an extra zero to the amount and also doubled it. Again my fiancé sent back the funds. The buyer then asked if my fiancé would take a check. They arranged for my fiancé to meet the buyer's cousin in person, and they would exchange the bike for the check. When my fiancé got the check, it was higher than the agreed amount, but the cousin told my fiancé it was a bonus for all his trouble. My fiancé deposited the check and eventually used some of the funds, or attempted to. The funds from the first transfer was from a bank account that was stolen due to identity theft. That transfer was reversed. The funds from the transfer on the other app was from a stolen account as well, and the app reversed that transfer. The check was fake and was clawed back by the bank. This is all on top of the transfers that my fiancé made to pay back the criminal. Our entire savings account is gone. What we had saved for a down payment. We were looking for a house and now everything is gone. I didn't find out about any of this until after the fact. I get alerts anytime there is a transaction on our savings account, but my fiancé deleted them. I do shift work, so I was asleep. And my fiancé went into my phone and deleted the texts because he didn't want me to find out. He broke his promise about only accepting cash for the bike. I am so angry. I'm not an angry guy in general, but I am furious about this. We have been dealing with the bank and with the other app. No success. We took the messages between my fiancé and the buyer, and the doorbell cam footage to different levels of the police. However, it didn't change anything. Our money is gone. We were hoping the bank could reverse the transfers my fiancé made at least, but the transfers were made into a compromised account, and the money was immediately moved. The bank also says my fiancé voluntarily and willingly made the transfers. We have given the police report to the bank, but it's not likely to change anything. Also, because of the fake check, our savings account was closed. It had a zero balance, and so was my fiancé's personal bank account. I use a different bank, so my personal bank account wasn't affected. The bank says my fiancé has to take his banking somewhere else, and also that they will not provide mortgage services to us. Not that we will be buying a house now since our entire down payment is gone. I have warned my fiancé that anyone who says they can recover the money is lying and he must ignore them. I will also ignore anyone who says they can do that. I'm devastated. I know it was just money, but I feel like I'm on a nightmare. I try to be a calm and laid-back guy, but that money was everything we had. We had to cancel with our wedding venue so we could get our deposit back just so we could afford our rent for July. I'm so angry with my fiancé. Not just about getting tricked, but because he lied to me. He broke his promise and he lied to me. More than the money, he broke my heart, and right now I hate him. This is like a nightmare I can't wake up from. Thanks for listening. Comments? Commenter 1, yeah. Obviously no success. They literally warn you 10 plus times per app not to do this. They're not giving you anything. That money is long gone. Commenter 2. I actually got to watch something similar in real time. A guy at the bank kept insisting he needed to transfer money to someone who was clearly scamming him. The teller went round and round with him that it was obviously a scam. He insisted it wasn't, he wanted the money. A supervisor came over and also went round and round. The guy eventually said he knew it might be a scam, but he wanted the money in case it wasn't. Finally, the supervisor told him they'd give him the money, but then they would close his account because he was willingly participating in fraud. He said that was fine, so they gave him a cashier's check for all of the money in his account and closed his account. Sometimes you can't save people. Commenter 3. I was that teller. I tried to help a long-time customer whom just gotten through a divorce and had a huge chunk of change from the settlement. She got caught up in a romance scam. She never met Romeo in person but developed a relationship virtually. They were initially introduced by someone whom she met on a cruise. Romeo was military, so he couldn't have social media. The amount of lies and reasons she believed that she was fed was staggering. He needed her help to get his share of pay of $2.1 out of Afghanistan. All she had to do was send $8K to a person. She made a Western Union transfer of the amount. I asked her if she knew this person. She said no. I told her that she's being scammed. I did a stop to the transfer and managed to recover that money for her. She took all the info I gave her and left for the day. She returned a couple of days later stating she needed another $50K transfer because customs had this container quarantined. She showed me pictures of it that the customs officer sent her. I asked to see the email address. Everything she showed me screamed of scammers. The email wasn't legit. She was getting so much pressure and guilt tripping from everyone too. I tried with everything I had to get her to see reason. But eventually we closed her accounts and she went elsewhere. I always wondered if she snapped out of it or if she got fleeced. Commenter 4. I would be rethinking my entire relationship if my partner did something this fool. Update. It's been a rough year, but I, M32, wanted to post an update because so many people were helpful and supportive in what was a dark time. My fiancé David, M33, had promised me he would only take cash in person when selling his old mountain bike. I don't know why he accepted advance payments from someone he never met. I don't know why he kept taking electronic payments when there were so many problems. I don't know why he took a check instead of cash when he met the buyer in person. He lied to me about that. He also tried to hide it from me when the money started to be clawed back. He turned off the text alerts option from our bank when I was sleeping, so I didn't realize what was going on or that money was getting clawed back. Losing the money when we were in the middle of looking for a house was devastating. What was even more devastating was David lying and trying to hide this from me. Between his lying, acting like this wasn't a big deal, losing our down payment and having to cancel our wedding venue to get our deposit back so we could pay our rent, my relationship with David fell apart. I was so angry with him. I've spent the last year dealing with the police, the bank and the other app and all of the wedding vendors we had to cancel on. The police say it is a common scam, and David wasn't the only victim they know about. It was hell. Even worse than all of that was David lying to me and doing this and not realizing he was being tricked out of our money. David and I had moved out here a few years ago because the house prices were the lowest in the country. After we broke up, I heard David moved back to his home province. I'm staying here. I have a life here, a good job, and I'm not exactly on the best of terms with my family. But having to start over from scratch after what David did was hard. The last year was a dark time. Not the worst in my life, but close. David tried to say I was victim blaming him because I was angry. He said he tried to hide what happened because he was ashamed, but he destroyed my trust and our relationship. Some days I still can't believe this happened. In short, my relationship with David is over. I had to find a new place to live. Our savings were lost, and I'm starting over from scratch. I will be okay, but it was a hard year. Comments? Commenter 1. You weren't victim blaming? You were idiot blaming. Commenter 2. This is such an old scam too. Not even new or clever. Commenter 3. This sort of thing is why people should have a separate account for day-to-day expenses, preferably in a different bank from savings accounts. Stories number 5. Aita. Two old women at a restaurant falsely accused me and my dad of filming and harassing them. I was eating dinner at a Lebanese restaurant with my dad tonight. It was a great dinner. We were eating good, drinking a couple of beers and catching up. In the middle of the dinner, my dad points to a painting across the hall and asks if I know who is on it since I know Arabic and have lived in Tunisia and Egypt. He thinks I might recognize the portrayed Arabic musician. I confess that I do not know, but I pull out my phone to take a picture so I can ask my Arabic friends about it because my dad was clearly curious about it. We finish our dinner, and when we are about to leave, the owner of the restaurant pull us over and inform us that two old ladies seated next to us had complained about us and accused us of filming and harassing them for hours. We are like WTF and ask who they're talking about. Then the owner points outside to two ladies that are just leaving. We rush out and confront them, and it turns out that they were sitting below the painting that me and my dad had been talking about and photographing. They had misunderstood the situation and thought we were actually pointing at them and filming them. We said we were sorry for the misunderstanding and tried to explain what had really happened, but they insisted that it was our fault anyways for not observing social rules and refused to accept our apology. Both me and my father left the restaurant with a sour taste. Our evening ruined. Were we the assholes? Comments. Commenter 1. Claims to have lived in Tunisia and Egypt. Doesn't know pointing is considered rude. It's also generally considered rude to take pictures of other people without their consent. You might not have been taking a picture of them directly, but most people that see a camera point at them by a stranger probably aren't going to like it. Confront them. Yes. Approaching strangers with hostility is definitely going to make them think differently about you than they already do. They had misunderstood the situation and thought we were actually pointing at them and filming them. That's their prerogative. And with how terminally online so many people are, constantly filming and posting other people, their conclusion wasn't exactly misguided. They're not obligated to accept your apology. YTA reply claims to have lived in Tunisia and Egypt. Doesn't know pointing is considered rude. It's also generally considered rude to take pictures of other people without their consent. You might not have been taking a picture of them directly, but most people that see a camera point at them by a stranger probably aren't going to like it. We didn't point at them or take pictures at them without their consent. We were pointing and taking pictures in the same general direction. It was simply a misunderstanding. Yes. Approaching strangers with hostility is definitely going to make them think differently about you than they already do. We didn't approach them with hostility, we approached them with kindness, begging for forgiveness. Commenter 2. If you know that this was just a misunderstanding, then who cares? Commenter 3. So what was it? Were they seated next to you or across the hall under the painting? Two old ladies seated next to us. My dad points to a painting across the hall. They were sitting below the painting. Please come back once you have your story straight. Because right now YTA, commenter 4 YTA, I don't think it is a big deal at all, but if you're taking a picture with your camera clearly pointed towards people who see you doing it, it would be polite to acknowledge them and explain. Maybe by pointing upwards to the painting, some people really would rather not have photos taken of them, and it is polite to respect that, not a huge issue. But your actions caused them discomfort, and if you'd been more aware, you probably would have acted differently. Stories number 6. Pregnant coworker keeps saying awful things to my terminally ill sister. Hoo boy, this will be short, but brutal. My little sister has terminal cancer. She has between 2 to 4 years left. No symptoms yet, so she's still going to work every day. They're a small company of 10 people. Read, no HR depth, and one of those 10 is a woman apparently bereft of reason or empathy. This gal is 5 months pregnant and will not stop saying inappropriate things to my sis. Here's a highlight reel. She came to Lil Sis's office, put my sister's hand on her own stomach and said, "Now you have another reason to fight. Pregnancy is going around. Guess you don't have to worry about that." Lil Sis beat ovarian cancer a few years ago and had a hysterectomy. Your body is growing things it shouldn't, and my body is growing exactly what I wanted. While talking about next year's conference, she said, "I'll be pregnant, so Lil Sis, it's all you." Lil Sis replied, "Well, it usually is, but I'm dying, so your ass is gonna have to figure something out. My sister doesn't really have the energy to devote to this, nor the fucks, to be honest, so she's been ignoring it or responding like she did above. I love her quips, but it's not stopping pregnant lady from saying all of these messed up things. Any advice?" Update: I have an update that, while dissatisfying from an HR perspective, will probably be pretty fun to read. My sister vents often to me and our best male friend. Prego left a comment on Lil Sis's Facebook. Some sort of, "Did you know I'm pregnant because I'm pregnant" comment on a cancer update. While Lil Sis and I were brainstorming firm but tasteful responses, male friend just left a reply that tore her a new asshole. She immediately deleted her reply and went radio silent. Lil Sis met with her boss the next morning to get ahead of any potential drama. Her boss actually shrugged and said, "This is what happens when you talk crazy out of church. Did I mention they're in a tiny mountain town?" Ding. The gist was she gave my sister carte blanche to put Prego in her place as needed. A warning and write-up would have been better, and I'm disappointed that my sister's manager is kind of a coward. We're glad manager is on her side in at least some way. Prego came into my sister's office with her tail between her legs and apologized profusely, and has since only been annoying in an overly accommodating way. No pregnant talk, no minimizing the terminal cancer. Apparently we just needed the audacity of a straight white man with nothing to lose. Editor's note: the letter writer shared what the boss said to pregnant coworker. "Credit to you, podcast junkie 8706, for finding it," he said. "Do you make literally everything about yourself?" And a gif of Kris Jenner that said, "Give me attention update too." The pregnant coworker actually left that job shortly after the confrontation, so we didn't have to give her any more thought. My sister had to work until the last few weeks of her life, yay capitalism. And we are so grateful for your help in making sure she didn't have to deal with a bully on top of everything else. She passed away earlier this year. She spent her final months doing almost everything on her bucket list, including hosting her own funeral a few months before she died. She wanted a party, not a memorial. She was the kindest and funniest person I have ever known, and the stars are dimmer with her gone. It's kind of special to know that sometimes when I am down an AAM rabbit hole, I might bump into her. Stories number 7. AITA for refusing to let my ML stay at our house after she tried to override my parenting rules. Last month, my MIL came to stay with us for a few days. I just had my second baby and I was exhausted. So at first I was grateful. But instead of helping, she constantly dismissed my parenting choices. I'm pretty firm about routines. Bedtime, no sweets before meals, and no screen time before naps. She constantly ignored my rules. She'd sneak candy and chocolates to my child before dinner, put on cartoons too much when I specifically said no, and even kept him up past bedtime. I confronted her and asked her to respect the rules we set as parents. But she dismissed me and said I was being too controlling. I was done. I told my husband that if she couldn't respect how we choose to raise our kids, she couldn't stay here. When she asked to come back for another week, I told her no. I said she can visit during the day, but I won't have her living under our roof if she won't follow the rules we set for our children. My husband thinks I overreacted, and my mill is acting like I'm keeping her from seeing her grandchild. I said she's always welcome to visit, just not live in our house if she can't follow our rules. Comments: Commenter 1 NTA, set the boundaries now. It's simple. When you are in someone else's home, you respect the rules, even if you don't agree with them. It's not her house to change them and disregard them. I bet she wouldn't like it if you walked into her home and decided to what you wanted against her wishes. Commenter 2. You have a husband problem as well as an ML problem. You need to ask how he'd feel if you completely overrode his parenting. If it wasn't for the fact that it'd confuse your child, I'd actually do it a time or two. He needs to have your back on this. As for Mael, she needs to learn that help is only help when it's needed. You don't need her type of help. Commenter 3. Nah, you were right to draw that line. PPL forget respect goes both ways. And being grandma doesn't mean free pass to parent your kids. Commenter 4. NTA, and that is how it's done. And so refreshing to read. Husband and Mael can each feel however they feel. Not your problem. Mael isn't the mom and has one job: love on her grandkids without making life harder for new mom. It doesn't require sabotaging sleep or appetite. Not to mention, if your son refused healthy food or fought bedtime, she'd judge all over that in a hot minute. Husband is clearly happy with the parenting choices you've both made outside of this visit. So he either stays home for all MIL visits to handle sugar rush and nap, or quit folding because his mommy's mad at consequences for not playing nice. He should locate his spine and two other things to support his wife, the one who facilitates and lives with the consequence of those visits while juggling a new baby, toddler, and being criticized as a bonus. P.S. O.P. I am a mom, Mael. With 2 adult sons, she knows better. I'd never treat my dill like that, disrespect her in her home, thwart her parenting, and wonder why a postpartum mom wouldn't find that helpful. I'm proud of you. Your husband needs to do better. You come first now, not his mom. Stories number 8, ATA, for wanting nothing to do with my kids and ex-wife after 2 years of false allegations. Hold on, because this is a doozy. I'm going to omit some details to help keep myself from getting doxxed about this whole thing. Last year, my kids 9F and 7M ran away late at night, early in the morning. When found by some city officials, they claimed I kicked them out of the house. I woke up the morning to the cops and CPS knocking on the door. I told my side of the story from what I knew, and they had my now ex-wife tell her side while keeping us separated. The cops claim our stories don't match and end up arresting me. I bail myself out that same day and go live with my parents for a while. I'm dealing with court, scared that I'm going back to jail or prison, and that I'll lose my job that I had only been at for a year. A little over a month goes by, and I get a phone call to have a meeting with the CPS woman in charge of our case. My daughter ended up making more allegations against me that did not make any sense to the CPS people. And when they asked her questions, she was unable to give them answers. My son ended up breaking first and admitting the whole thing was made up, and that my daughter was the one to orchestrate everything. This reveal led to the charges being dropped and my daughter getting counseling and psychiatric help. For a while I thought things were good. We were on our way to fix things. I kept trying to get all of us into therapy, both individually and family. I was already in therapy due to this whole situation anyway. My ex kept dragging her feet and it never went anywhere. After some other situations with being displaced due to a natural disaster and me trying to get things packed up in our old apartment, I get told by my ex she wants a divorce, so now I'm having to rush and try to find a place to live, which I did luckily. I actually move in tomorrow. On the 14th of June, I get served an emergency protection order by the county sheriff's office. I'm told it's because I allegedly hit my son and gave him a concussion while in the grocery store, where there are cameras. He had been taken to the emergency room by my ex on the 14th, but this event allegedly happened on the 10th. I had told my ex that due to me having to get this house to rent, along with utilities in my name, adding up to over $2,000, that I wasn't going to be able to pay certain bills this month, but that I'll get them caught up as soon as I can to get everything paid off and even. I signed for the deposit on the 11th, and the kids had been with her while I did this paperwork, and there was no issue. On the same morning, I had taken my kids to the park so they could play and recorded videos of them being silly and having fun. I was talking to my therapist this week, and I told her what was going on and how I felt about being around my ex or the children. It's 2 years in a row of false allegations. I want nothing to do with any of them now. I'll pay child support gladly. I had an agreement with my ex before this all happened of paying $1,000 a month, $500 per paycheck, for child support. After all of this, Aita for not wanting to be around the children and my ex after everything gets settled and found out to be lies again? Additional information from OOP. I posted this before I clocked in at work, so let me give some more details. My ex-wife and I were still together when the kids ran away last year. My side of the story during that was that I came home from work, talked with the kids and wife, gave the kids their melatonin gummies before sending them to bed, after which I took a shower before making me something for dinner and cleaning up afterwards. By this point, my ex was asleep already, and so were the kids. When CPS and the mental health professionals were talking to my daughter after everything got cleared, she was saying the voices she was hearing were telling her to do things. The mental health professionals said this sounded too rehearsed to them. It later got revealed that she was watching videos about kids pranking their parents, and she wanted to try it out herself. She had access to YouTube due to tablets that my MIL had given the kids for Christmas back in 2023, which I disagreed with, but I was ignored at the time, and to this day. I do not believe my ex had a hand in the running away situation. On to this year, my son went to the ER on the 14th because he had, and I quote from the paperwork I was given, dizziness, lightheaded feeling, and a nosebleed. I am not sure how he received a concussion. Nothing is finished with this situation yet, and nothing has been decided in terms of child support. We go back to court next month to revisit this after the investigation has finished. On the day I received the EPO, I talked to a state trooper and told him the kids' history, showed the videos of my kids playing, and showed receipts on my banking app from when we were at Walmart and at what time we were there. As of right now, I haven't heard anything else. I have already been interviewed by CPS and informed them of the same things I told the state trooper, because it is a different person on this case, as my ex and kids live in a different county at the moment. This time I firmly believe that my ex is behind this, due to my telling her some of the bills would have to wait because I'm having to pay approximately $12,500 to move, put down deposits, and pay first and last month rent. I haven't seen my kids since I dropped them off to my grandparents on the afternoon of the 11th. I have not made a decision about staying away from my kids, but I do plan on talking to a lawyer in the next couple of days, and I'm looking into security for my house and a discreet body camera to wear like many other users have said. I'll try to answer any other questions that I can, but I move tomorrow, and I have some last-minute things to pack up and place in my car and move downstairs. Thank you for all of your insights and words and thoughts and prayers. It means a whole lot to me that I can't put into words. Relevant comments. Are OP's children his biological? Reply. Well, considering they look like I just clicked copy and paste. Did something happen at the grocery store that caused the son to have a concussion? Reply. Nothing happened at the grocery store is the thing. We went in, picked up some sweet tea and ramen, then left. Update Aita for wanting nothing to do with my kids and ex-wife after 2 years of false allegations. So I have an update, along with answering some questions better from my previous post. When I first posted this, I was not in a good headspace, and I realized that I wasn't very clear. To be honest, I'm still not in a good headspace, but it's a little bit better. For starters, these false allegations started last year when my kids were 9 and 7. When I said 2 years, I meant calendar years. When I said I spoke to the police about my side of the story last year, I meant what happened the night before the police and CPS showed up at the front door. I had gotten home, spent some time with the kids and my ex-then-wife. Before giving the kids their melatonin gummies, this was done on an as-needed basis, mainly 2 to 3 times a week at most. After that, I went and took a shower, made myself some dinner, then ate and cleaned up the kitchen before spending more time with my then-wife before we both went to bed. Due to a contraction happening when she was being given the epidural, she sleeps better propped up, so she slept on the couch while myself and the kids slept upstairs. The next morning is when I woke up to the cops at the door with CPS. I was charged with child abandonment and arrested. It took over a month for the truth to come out about my kids making this up, due to the fact my daughter was saying I was having sex with her. The CPS agent conducting the investigation tried to ask more details, and that's when my daughter started crying and admitted she made it up because she couldn't give details. The only reason my daughter even knew what sex was is because my ex and I were in the bedroom, and we both thought the other locked the door, and my daughter walked in on us. Moving to now, I don't know how my son got this supposed concussion. We had court again on Monday the 21st, and when the judge asked her, she told him that, after talking with the state trooper, we have decided to not press criminal charges. I asked the judge if there was any evidence that they had about what they're claiming I did. and he told me that since no charges were filed, there's no evidence gathered to give to me. I want to thank everyone for their answers on my last post. Thinking about those feelings was making me sick to my stomach, and I just needed some perspectives from people who weren't emotionally involved. I thought about this since last month, and I made the decision to tell the judge I want the divorce process and this EPO to be over and done with, and that I just want to be left alone. I'm still questioning if this was the right decision or not. I'm just not sure what else I could do. I work 12-hour days, 5 to 6 days a week. I have no way to take care of the kids, so I can't take them in. Even then, am I supposed to get to the point where the court system says supervised visits aren't needed anymore and just start wearing a body camera around the kids and just be scared all the time? Looking over my shoulder constantly just to make sure that I'm not going to end up in jail again? We have a hearing set up for December to hopefully get everything finalized and finished. I keep thinking about the kids going trick or treating in 3 months, going back to school next month, how we won't be decorating Christmas trees together or making cookies for Santa, and I start crying all over again. I'm not sure what else I could have done, though, that wouldn't have made me a paranoid mess 24/7. This will be the last update until December or January, I guess. Thank you again for everyone saying I wasn't an asshole for feeling this way. Have a good one, Reddit. Relevant comments. Did OP's ex explain why she wanted the divorce? Her words was that she just isn't in love with me anymore, and we've both become too different. She's religious, I'm not. Both have different views on things that we can't come to an agreement on. After last year, I wanted to get us into therapy and got some recommendations for marriage counselors and gave her the list and said that I'd be fine with whoever she chose so long as we worked on it. She never chose anyone and kept making excuses about why every time I asked. Commenter 1. Your daughter lied about you ARPing her, among many other allegations, and she says that she was motivated to behave the way that she did after she apparently watched a YouTube prank video? There is more to this story than your daughter is letting on. Either your ex-wife has coached your daughter well, or your daughter is incredibly manipulative at a very young age. Reply: everything I know I included. I'm dead certain there's stuff I don't know about, like you said. Commenter 2. If you don't mind the question, in your previous post, you mentioned how you were arrested because the cops claimed you and your wife's stories didn't match. Did you find out why they weren't the same, and why your wife wasn't arrested as well? Sorry you're going through this, OP. Reply: no, I didn't. I have the police report, but all it says is, when asked if she believes he's capable of this, she answered, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't want to think about it. Did the daughter's tablet from MIL have parental controls? Reply: she apparently somehow found a way to get past it from what I know about it. Like I mentioned in a different comment, I told everything that I know about the situation from my end. OOP needs to get his kids in therapy, especially his daughter and himself. Reply: I agree about both, and luckily I'm in therapy already. I've been in therapy since August-September of last year. Update 2. Aita, for wanting nothing to do with my kids and ex-wife after 2 years of false allegations. So this is a really small update that I wasn't expecting to make. I had left a voicemail for the CPS agent assigned to the current situation with my son asking for an update on everything, because I haven't heard anything since June. She had to look in her case notes, but everything has been found to be unsubstantiated. I should be getting the official paperwork in a few days to a week in the mail. I'm not sure how to feel about this, honestly. I'm relieved that the truth has come out about these allegations. Angry that this has happened to me twice now. Happy that this is one step closer to being finished. I want to cry, but I couldn't tell you the specific emotion that's causing it. I'm taking some other Redditors' words to heart and putting in a request to my state police records department to get copies of any and all paperwork, evidence or lack thereof, anything I can get my hands on from them. I'm also getting copies of my son's medical records so I can see exactly what was found back in June. I know a lot of you don't believe this, and I don't care. I have nothing to gain from lying about this. I'll gladly post pictures of the paperwork from CPS when it comes in, with all private information redacted, of course, to protect myself and my children. I know some of the details don't make sense between the OG post and the update. But like I saw one person mention which I love to read posts from, and didn't expect my own to end up there. I'm just going on survival mode. I only just got a full-sized fridge 2 days ago. I only have an air mattress for a bed. I'm just tired. I want this over with. I want things to go back to January when all I had to worry about was the fact I was recovering from a car wreck and couldn't even help take down the Christmas trees and get a new car. Top comments. Commenter 1. I think it's good you're getting those medical records because, if he really did have a concussion, it's possible that your ex tried to pin it on you to hide who really did it. And that's something that CPS should actually be looking at. Commenter 2. Also, are we exploring the option that someone else may have assaulted the daughter? I think it's actually kinda common for abused children to accuse someone other than the actual abuser. It feels like OP should be pushing for someone to look into the kid's situation. Even just getting them a therapist or someone to talk to that is a mandated reporter and can keep an eye out. Commenter 3. If you have issues obtaining any information, you can try a private investigator. I have never used one, but I have seen many comments praising them for the help. Commenter 4. Buddy, it's clear your ex-wife is more involved with all of this than you think. I'd document everything with her and keep your kids in therapy. If you have custody of the kids, get cameras around the house too. She's poisoning them against you. Update 3 Aita, for wanting nothing to do with my kids and ex-wife after 2 years of false allegations? So I didn't think I would be back with any sort of update until December. But here I am, first. I want to thank everyone for their comments, the ones who tell me I'm NTA for feeling this way, the ones who said this was fake AI bull which got me laughing a bit, and for all the advice everyone's given me. Second, for the ones who DM'd me, I also want to say thank you for reaching out. I may not have answered, but I really appreciated reading the messages. After my last update, I tried looking for something to do on my days off of work. My first thought was the animal shelter nearby because it's not even a 5-minute drive from my house. Turns out it's closed on my days off. I looked around for neighboring counties and those were even less helpful. A lot of them required I attend some sort of orientation. But there's no set day of the week for the orientations. I know it would be good for my mental health in the long run, but in the short term taking a day off from work, potentially, to attend the orientation and making my paycheck smaller isn't helpful. So I decided to try dating. I wasn't going into this looking for anything serious. I was wanting to try some casual dates to just get out of the house and meet people. That's not what happened. I made a profile on a dating app and kinda just left it alone. One of the pictures I had put on there was of my cat. He's an orange cat presenting as a tuxedo cat. No brain cell whatsoever. I got a message and this woman was talking about how cute my cat was and how he matched one of hers. We talked about our cats for a while, then things got flirty and I asked her out on a date. I feel like it went well, since she stuck around anyway. We found out that there are so many similarities between what we like and our senses of humor that my friends think I found a female version of myself, which I think is funny because when she meets them that means they're screwed. After almost a month of us talking and going on the occasional date, I told her I had some things to tell her and then something to ask her. I was upfront with everything that happened last year and this year, showing her the paperwork that I had to show that I was innocent in all of this. After telling her all of this, I asked if she still wanted to stick around, or if she wanted to walk away and not get dragged into any drama that she could get put through just because of us having a relationship. She hugged me, cried for me, which got me to start crying, and told me that she was sorry I had to go through something like that. Once the two of us stopped trying to flood my house from crying more myself than her, I asked her if she wanted to make things official between us, and she said yes. I was honestly so scared to tell her about what happened with my kids and ex. I was dead certain that once I told any prospective girlfriend this, they would walk away so that their own lives wouldn't get ruined. But she stayed, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. We agreed to take it slow so that we don't rush into anything too quickly. I can't remember which of my posts it was on, and to be honest there's too many comments on them all to be able to find them. But a Redditor said that, essentially, they hope I find someone and can actually be happy after all of this drama with my ex-wife and kids. I want to thank them for saying that, because between them speaking it into existence and my cat being, well, him, it seems to have worked. I'm not back up to 100% though. I'm still scared that something else will happen that will somehow mess my life up even more. I'm scared of the cops showing up at my house with new allegations, even though I haven't done anything. I'm scared of running into my ex, or the kids in public just by going grocery shopping and somehow getting arrested over it. Every time I drive home and a sheriff, state police, or city police vehicle comes down towards me or drives by the house, I can feel my anxiety spike. I have cameras up that record my front door, back door, and where I park my car outside my house, and cameras inside that cover my front door and my back door. I have other means of showing my location on my phone and where I've traveled, if I've traveled at all that day. I keep any receipts from shopping or even grabbing something to eat while in town, just so I have timestamps of where I've been and when I was there. It's a mess, but I'm doing what I can. I'm looking forward to learning more about my girlfriend that my dingus of a cat helped me meet. I'm looking forward to being able to not live in fear of police. I'm looking forward to being able to live and not just not die right now. Again, I want to thank everyone for their thoughts, advice, comments, everything. I'm still gathering paperwork and what evidence I can about all of this, and sadly, I still don't have answers about why this has been happening. I don't know how my son got this supposed concussion. I don't know if my ex is coaching them. I don't know if someone is in their lives because of my ex that is causing all of this. I don't know if I'll get those answers. But right now, I'm going to keep searching and fighting for myself until I either can't find anything else or I get answers. Relevant comments, commenter. 1. Oh my gosh. This was actually such a roller coaster to read, but in like the best way. First off, huge props for putting yourself out there when you were feeling stuck. That takes so much energy when your mental health is already low. And you still did it. Second, your cat basically deserves a medal for matchmaking. Because that's honestly the cutest way to meet someone. And the fact that she stayed after you opened up about everything? That's huge. Like, you didn't just find someone who's fun to be around, you found someone who can handle the hard stuff with you, which is exactly what you need after everything you've been through. It's also totally normal to still feel anxious. Your brain is just trying to keep you safe after all that drama. So of course it's hyper alert. The cameras, receipts, all that's you taking control where you can. And there's nothing wrong with that while you rebuild trust in your own safety. Basically, you're doing better than you think. You're dating someone who sounds amazing. You're taking steps to protect yourself, and you're still fighting for answers. That's strength right there. Keep letting yourself enjoy the good moments with her. The fear will start to loosen its grip over time. Reply, thank you for the comment. It definitely made me smile today, lol. Dingus did get a reward for his efforts, even though the picture was of him sleeping. So very little effort really of wet food and new treats and toys. Commenter 2. First post was 3 months ago. You've been dating this girl for at least a month. So you went from that traumatic end to jumping into a new relationship in 2 months? If you're gonna move away from trauma at warp speed, don't be surprised when you end up with more. Reply, that's why I'm making sure to take this slow and not jumping into the deep end. No meeting family until 2 months officially dating, so not until November at the earliest. No going to family functions together until next year, things like that. Commenter 3. Did your ex give her a reason why she wanted a divorce in the first place? Do you think there's someone else and that she's trying to manipulate the kids? Reply, at this point I have no idea, but that's the general consensus from my other posts. My ex told me she wasn't in love with me anymore and that she couldn't stay with me and wanted a divorce. I haven't spoken to her since June, so I have nothing else to go off of. Commenter 4. I would demand a psych evaluation of the kids as part of the divorce. I'm afraid they are being coached by their mom, and if that is the case, it is abuse and you have to protect your kids. Have a professional do a full evaluation because they could be as much victims as you are. Also, what did you solve about your ring finger? Ever found a nice piece of jewelry to replace it? Reply, I'm leaning towards that. I'm just wanting to get to tax time so I can get my return and hire a lawyer. It's not the best choice, I'll admit, but there's a company called Enso Rings that my ex and I had gotten wedding rings from. They're all made of silicone and are very comfortable and have some contracts with Disney and WB. They currently have a suicide survivor ring that either 20 or 30% of each sale goes to a foundation of some kind. I can't remember the specifics off the top of my head. I had an attempt about 10 years ago by trying to overdose on muscle relaxers. I was thinking of buying that ring. Obviously, I'll explain it to my girlfriend so she knows ahead of time and doesn't see me out of the blue with a ring on again. Is OP in therapy? Reply, I'm already in therapy. Been going for about a year now. Stories number 9. My wife made comments about her hot yoga teacher to a van full of our friends. I have mixed feelings. Was this inappropriate? I was on vacation a few months ago with my 55-meter wife 55F. It was a trip with 6 couples and we were sightseeing in Europe. We were staying at a nice spa hotel and the women all did a yoga class one morning. There had been some chatter, including from my wife, that the yoga teacher was cute. And he made the women's day when he told them all, if you're pregnant, you should skip this next yoga pose. For any of you lost on this, women in their 50s are not getting pregnant. And for the teacher to assume that these women were in their childbearing years, they are looking pretty young and fit. I didn't think too much of this discussion. But one night after dinner in town and quite a few wines and cocktails and coming back to the hotel in a van, my wife again brought up this hot yoga teacher and described how he asked at the beginning of the class if anyone would be uncomfortable if he touched them to adjust their positioning. My wife then said, well, none of us raised our hands. Another one of the women said, oh, he adjusted my position. And my wife said, oh yeah, me too. Now here's the thing, it didn't really bother me at that moment. In fact, I have to admit it sort of turned me on. I have no problem that my wife at her age has a decent libido, and we have absolutely no issues in the bedroom. But I wonder what the other women and men thought about the comments. The light was off in the van, dark, and I couldn't see any others' expressions. If I or the guys took some class and started talking about the teacher being hot and being touched, I mean, this would be a whole different situation. And I would bet the women would be pissed off. I'd love to hear some comments. Commenter 1. Yeah, this story definitely would not survive a gender swap. A 55-year-old guy expressing how hot a much younger yoga teacher was would be met with cringe comments. Commenter 2. Not saying you should get upset about it, but even as a joke, that's a pretty shitty thing to say in front of your husband. Commenter 3. Hi, your wife's yoga teacher here. No big deal at all. It happens all the time. Commenter 4. Apply the same standards to your wife and see how long until she's filing for half of the estate. Stories number 10. My mom made a change to my wedding gown. I got married almost 20 years ago. I designed my own wedding gown. A beautiful off-the-shoulder top in Alençon lace with long bell sleeves. The lace had just a little bit of beaded sparkle, a flattering drop waist, and a full satin skirt with a matching lace hem. It was really simple, and a local dressmaker made it for me with just my pencil sketch design and the material. I tried it on in the hotel room for my mom and sisters, and I was really happy. It gently skimmed my body, had a modest neckline, and was super comfortable. I had Spanx underneath it, but something that was totally breathable, and I envisioned dancing the evening away in total bliss. Well, my mom, bless her heart, decided that my waist needed to look a little more snatched to better show off my recent 50-pound weight loss, so, while she was holding on to the dress overnight at the hotel I was staying with my MOH, she had the dressmaker sew a boned corset inside the dress. When I put it on the next day at the church, it was not just a shock, it was uncomfortable. When I walked down the aisle, it looked great, sure, but when I knelt down on the pew at the front of the church, the bottom of the corset with its heavy boning, which had not been fitted to my short waist, flipped up and proceeded to give me a muffin top. Worse still, having my shapewear plus, the corset forced my boobs to bubble over my modest neckline and made me look way more va-va-va-boom than I wanted. I could barely breathe for the entire mass. The muffin top also played a big part in my wedding photos. Much to my dismay, at the reception, I lifted my arms up high to wrap around my tall new husband's neck. and I felt the stupid corset flipping up on my hips again. In my haste and frustration, I tried to tug it down, and it ripped the lace armpits right out of my gown. I didn't want to miss my first dance, so I just pretended everything was fine. Afterwards, I went to the ladies' room and used my emergency sewing kit to quickly stitch up the armpits. Let's just say that I didn't dance as freely for the rest of the night. It's okay. It was still the perfect day and I married my soulmate, so it was hard to complain too much. Almost 2 decades later and my mom is still apologizing for overstepping. Lol, I know she meant well. Anyone else have a helpful mom or friend who made a unilateral but rather disastrous decision on your wedding day? Comments. Commenter 1. No dressmaker worth their salt would even touch a bride's gown without her explicit say-so these days. Reply, she was a dear family friend, and my mom was so proud of my weight loss that she felt it could look so much better with a svelte waist. Thing is, I've never had a defined waist. I'm more straight up and down. It's funny. My hubby has a framed pic of me that my sister snapped that day in the hotel room, wearing the gown before the corset edition. No makeup on. Hair long and straight instead of the half-up, down curls I had on the big day, and me looking down at the dress with a little smile. He loves that photo. Commenter 2. Family friend or not, the dressmaker must have been a moron. No professional would do that to a bride's dress after a final fitting without permission from the bride. Reply, she was elderly and from Holland. Very sweet lady who had been helping our family for years. She wanted to ask me, but Mom convinced her it was the right move. Not a moron, just trusting and eager to please. Commenter 3. The dressmaker sounds like a kind old lady. Your mother sounds like a loving mom who wanted to help, because mothers know best, and you are kind and sweet for forgiving them both and enjoying your special day. Reply, thank you for putting it so well. I love my mom dearly, and she'd never intentionally hurt me. She still feels bad about wrecking my dress and fully admits she was wrong for doing it. And my dressmaker didn't just make the dress for me. My parents bought the material and planned to pay for her to make it. But she gave me the finished gown as her gift. She'd been sewing for my family long before I was even born, and was like my great-aunt. She had her reservations, but I think she just wanted to make everyone happy, and didn't think it was a big deal to sew the corset inside. It just didn't work in the end. Thank you for your kind words. Commenter 4. Oh man. This is peak mom knows best energy. Glad you were able to laugh about it now, but damn, that sounds like a nightmare in the moment. Honestly though, anyone who has worn a corset knows how brutal they can be. Even when chosen by the bride herself, your mom's heart was in the right place. Just a little. Invasive lol. At least the memories make a great story. And hey, you still got to marry your soulmate. Definitely bookmarking this for if my mom ever tries any helpful modifications on my future wedding day. Stories number 11. Wibta. If I don't tell my best friend that I'm dying, I recently got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer that somehow went undetected before, and I have up to 3 months to live according to the doctor. I could try treatments, but it's gonna be expensive as hell. And at most, it's going to extend my life by a few more months before I die anyways. So I decided I'd just take it and face it head on. Now my best friend since forever, and his wife finally got pregnant after 8 years of trying with no luck, and they're genuinely the happiest I've ever seen them. He knows I was in the hospital and they came to check on me multiple times, and I just told them that they shouldn't bother, and that it wasn't serious. I don't want to make one of the happiest times of both of their lives sad just for me. It's gonna happen eventually. When I do go, and I know it's gonna destroy him. Because we're genuinely closer to each other than we are to our own siblings, and he already told me that I'm gonna be his daughter's godfather, and I genuinely hope I'd get to see her at least once before I go. I'm single with no children, and I'm planning to split my estate to give some to my older sister, and set up college funds for her 3 children who I love very much, and to my parents, and I want to give something to my friend, and I want to set up a little college fund for their future baby daughter. I'm also writing a long personalized letter to a lot of my family and friends, and I'm writing his now, and I can't stop crying. I'm apologizing for keeping this a secret, and I said I didn't want to take the spotlight, and that I love him and his wife, and that I know their daughter would be the most loved baby in the world. But I'm wondering if this is the right thing to do, or if it'd hurt him even more when I go, should I just tell him? Notable comments. Commenter 1. It's your life. But I guarantee you he'll wish he'd known when you're gone, so he could have said a proper goodbye. I've had friends experience this when a loved one didn't tell them the end was near, and it destroyed them emotionally to just wake up to learn they were gone. Reply. That's the thing. I know it'll destroy him when he gets that call, but I don't know. I also don't like people feeling sorry for me, and really outside of my parents and sister nobody knows yet. Commenter 2. Bro, I need to be honest with you. I know the feeling of not wanting to be a burden, but trust me. The feeling he will have knowing you didn't tell him will be much more painful. Update. First, thanks for all of your kind words to me, and I'm sorry about all of your loved ones who suffered the same. Almost all of you suggested telling him about it, and y'all gave me perspectives I honestly didn't think about. And so I did it last night. Right now it's 6 a.m. over here, but last night after I posted it and got most of your messages, I called him. He answered on the second ring, and I just broke down and started crying. I told him everything about why I was really in the hospital that time, and about my diagnosis and the fact I have up to 3 months to live. He broke down and called me a bastard and a liar, and told me to stop fucking with him. Then he hung up on me, and 15 minutes later he came over still in his pajamas, and we just hugged and cried. I showed him my medical records and reports, and I showed him the post and the comments, and he called me crazy and a damn idiot for even thinking about not telling him. He said he'd have hated me and himself if I died without telling him before that, and he said I'm more important to him than a million babies. We stayed up the entire night just talking about it and life, and reliving our memories and laughing and crying and stuff. He even took a video of us just talking, and he asked if I really wanted to leave something to him and his daughter, and I was like, yeah. I joked that I wouldn't be needing the money anyway, and that I'm throwing it in the trash basically, and he laughed like it's the funniest thing ever. He just left right now because his wife has an early doctor appointment, and I begged him before that I don't want any pity or sadness from him or anybody else, and he said, bitch, I'd never cry for you after a whole night of him indeed crying for me, BW. And we hugged, and he told me to get some sleep and rest, because we have a long day today. I asked what he meant, and he told me I'd see, so yay. I feel like a huge weight was lifted off of me, and it's mainly thanks to all of you. Thank you again. Some of the comments, yay, I love him to death, buns intended no homo though. It's a joke. He honestly flirts with me, probably more than he does with his wife. She actually has my number saved as side chick. Knowing him, he'd put the worst picture of me ever there, which is why I'm leaving my funeral planning solely to my parents. It's definitely not easy knowing you're dying soon, especially since I'm 28 and thought I'd have much more time, but it is what it is, I guess. I am glad too. I'm just really sad I won't be there to comfort him when I'm dead, because I know he'd be destroyed. Update 2. I can't reply to any comments or post anything on my original account, and I wanted to give y'all one last update, because none of this would have happened without y'all. So there was no doctor's appointment. Instead, he had his wife bake me this family recipe cake that I absolutely love, and they came over at around 10 a.m. with the cake. His wife gave me the biggest mama bear hug and cried and said she loves me and asked if it was true. And I said yay, and we sat down and cried. They were crying for me, but I was crying because the cake was so goddamn good. They then took me out for a family fun day out, and it was honestly so good. We went to the mall and watched the Conjuring movie in the cinema because we all love horror, and we even did karting. Just me and my friend though, because she's too pregnant for this. They took me to my favorite restaurant and refused to let me pay for anything the entire day. We then went to a beach and watched the sun go down, and we just talked more about it, and we cried some more. I told them when I'm dead, I don't want them to be sad at all for me, or else I'd haunt them forever, and I told them to love their baby daughter extra hard for me. And they filmed multiple videos of me saying they want to remember my voice, which honestly hit me really hard. They told me they wanted me to move in with them until I go because they wanted as much time with me as possible and would love having me around, and honestly, it's perfect timing. Because my lease literally ends 2 weeks from now. They said they don't want to leave me alone, so they're both sleeping at my place tonight. We're giving my bed to his wife, and we're taking the couches. I don't wish this sickness on my worst enemy, but honestly, I'm feeling so lucky and loved right now. They literally would not leave me alone. And honestly, I couldn't be any happier. I just wish I'd get to meet their baby at least once before I die. And it's possible because she's in her 7th month. Tomorrow I'm planning to go and tell the rest of my closest family and friends. Again, thanks for all of your nice words to me. Some of the comments, Elmao, you think ghosts are real? I want to be a ghost so bad and just fuck with them after I die. They're not letting me go easy. My friend took the entirety of next week off of work for this shit. They're not letting me sleep, Lamau. They want to keep doing shit. They say they want to every last minute possible, and I couldn't be happier. Today we filmed way too many videos of us, mainly me, doing so much stupid shit and just having fun. And they filmed a video of me talking to Emily, which is what they're calling her, and I was talking about the time me and her dad ended up in a police station in Christmas Eve. I wish I got to hear these stories alive, but oh well. Thanks, yes, they're wonderful people, and I just know that little girl would be so loved. They said I'm a test run for them as parents. To be honest, I'm scared as fuck. I'm not strong, but I just don't want them worrying about me like that. Stories number 12. My sister's actions killed her husband. So this all starts 4 years ago when my sister cheated on her at the time husband because she was bored. She kept it hidden for months until she felt guilty one day. He immediately spiraled, had a really bad reaction, understandably so. They separated but stayed married just 'cause divorce is expensive. After a bit, eventually, he tried to get out and date again. She had threatened her own life when she found out he went on a date, so he stopped. After this, he fell into a really deep depression, started drinking heavily, and would stay in his room when he wasn't working. He could not see a future, and continuing living with her, existing and freaking out every time he went out on a date or with friends. He would have moved out if he had the money. But unfortunately, they were both in debt during the marriage. The last 2 years of his life, I sat there trying to get him help. But nobody else wanted to help him, even going to the point of reaching out to people when he told me his plan to leave this earth. She had convinced everyone in the family that he was the problem, and she was justified in cheating. He eventually took his life 2 years ago in a very tragic manner. I fully blame her for pushing him down that road, and the blood that I feel is on my hands for not doing enough. Comments. Commenter 1. This is rough. How's your sister doing now? Does she know the extent of her actions? Reply. She has already moved on, is engaged to somebody else, and they like to ignore that it ever happened. I'm not sure how she is. She doesn't share with me anything anymore. Commenter 2. I'm really sorry you went through all of this. It's understandable to feel guilt, but someone's decision to end their life is never entirely on one person. Your sister's actions hurt him, but his pain was also shaped by many factors you couldn't control. You did what you could by trying to help. Please consider speaking with a mental health professional or support group about your own grief. You deserve care and healing too. Reply. I am luckily in therapy and working through this. Commenter 2. Reply. That's really good to hear. Therapy gives you space to process both the grief and the weight of responsibility. You've been carrying. Healing takes time, but continuing to talk it through and letting yourself feel supported will help lighten that burden little by little. Commenter 3. It is not on your hands, but your sister is a POS, and I wouldn't talk to her. No amount of shit ever can justify adultery. Let me guess, she cheated because he was working overtime to get them out of debt. Then he spiraled into alcohol because what's the point? Sorry for your loss. Stories number 13. My brother asked me to give up my savings for his pregnant girlfriend, and I said no. When I was growing up, money was always tight in our family. Our parents, Linda and Robert, worked hard, but there was never much left over after bills. I learned early on that if I wanted something, I had to work for it. By the time I was 16, I was working weekends at a grocery store, stashing away whatever I could in an old coffee tin. That habit followed me into adulthood. Now I'm 27, and for the last decade, I've been disciplined about saving. I live in a small apartment in Indianapolis, work as a lab tech, drive a used Honda Civic, and rarely splurge. It's not glamorous, but I've managed to build up a solid savings account around $48,000. It's meant for a down payment on a house one day, and part of it is my emergency cushion. My younger brother Jason has always been different. He's 25, charming, funny, the kind of guy people like instantly. But he's never been good with money. He's had jobs, but he doesn't stick with them. One year he was selling cars. The next he was bartending, then doing landscaping. He blows through paychecks like they burn a hole in his pocket. New sneakers, parties, weekend trips. My mom always says, "That's just Jason. He'll figure it out eventually." Recently, Jason's girlfriend, Emily, got pregnant. She's 23, works part-time at a nail salon, and I'll admit, she's sweet. She and I get along fine. But the truth is she and Jason barely scrape by. When they told the family about the pregnancy, there was excitement but also a lot of concern. Everyone knew they weren't financially stable. Last week, Jason came over to my place unannounced. He plopped down on my couch like he owned the place and said, "Hey man, I need to talk to you about something important." I knew right away it was going to be about money. Sure enough, he told me he'd been stressing because Emily's due in a few months. They need baby furniture, doctor copays, diapers, a crib, car seat, the works. Then he said something that floored me. "I know you've been saving up a lot. I was thinking maybe you could help us out. Like loan us 20 grand, or honestly just give it. Since you don't even have kids or responsibilities right now." I just stared at him. $20,000? That's nearly half my savings. I asked him if he was serious. He said yes and added, "Think of it as investing in your niece or nephew's future. You've always been the responsible one. I need you to step up for family." I told him flat out no. I said, "Jason, I've worked for years to save that money. It's not extra cash lying around, it's my future. I want to buy a house. I can't just give it away." His face changed instantly. The charm was gone. He accused me of being selfish, of not caring about family, of being just like Dad, which stung because our dad, Robert, has always been distant and strict. Jason stormed out after saying, "Don't bother showing up when the baby's born if you can't even help us now." Later that night, my mom called. Turns out Jason had gone crying to her. She said she understood why I said no, but also reminded me that family takes care of family. She suggested maybe I could at least cover some of the bigger purchases, like the crib or hospital bills. I asked her if she could help instead, and she admitted she didn't have the money. Then she said, "But you do, honey, and they're just starting out. You're in a better place." Now I feel like the bad guy. Emily even texted me the next day, saying she didn't mean for Jason to ask like that, but that they were desperate. She ended the message with, "You're going to be an uncle. I thought you'd be happy to help. The thing is, I do want to be a good uncle." I already planned on buying gifts, helping with babysitting, maybe setting up a small college fund later but draining my savings. That feels like sacrificing my future because Jason hasn't managed his life responsibly. It's tearing me apart. On one side, it's my money. I worked hard for it, and I shouldn't feel guilty about protecting my future. On the other, Jason's right that I don't have kids or a mortgage yet. I know that 20 grand would make a massive difference for them, and part of me wonders if I'll regret not stepping up when my niece or nephew arrives. Every time I talk to Jason now, he's cold. My mom keeps making little comments like, "Babies don't wait for houses," or "Maybe God blessed you with savings so you could share it." Even my Aunt Carol chimed in during Sunday dinner, saying, "When I had my first kid, your uncle's brother helped us out big time. That's what family does." I can't shake the guilt, but I also can't convince myself to write that check. I've replayed it in my head 1,000 times. Jason and Emily sitting in their apartment, surrounded by baby stuff bought with my savings, while I'm still in my rental, years away from a house, all because I caved to family pressure. I know myself. I'd resent them for it. So for now, I've said no and I'm sticking to it. But I can't help wondering if I'm going to end up being the villain in the family for protecting my own future. instead of sacrificing it for my brother's mistakes. Update. It's been a couple of months since I first wrote about Jason asking me for 20 grand. And a lot has happened. Jason and Emily's baby is due in about 5 weeks. Ever since my original post, the tension in the family has gotten worse. I thought if I just kept my head down, everyone would cool off. But I underestimated how far Jason would take things. At first, he just gave me the silent treatment. No texts, no calls, not even memes. And Jason used to send me stupid memes every single day. Emily, to her credit, kept it civil. She even sent me updates about doctor visits and ultrasound pics. I didn't respond much because I didn't want to get sucked into another money talk, but I didn't want to be completely cold either. Then at a family barbecue my mom hosted, Jason decided to stir the pot. I was helping set out food when he loudly said, "Guess we're lucky Emily's parents care about this baby." Since my own brother would rather hoard his money than help, everyone froze. My mom jumped in with, "Jason, stop," but it was too late. Half the family looked at me like I'd just confessed to being Ebenezer Scrooge. I didn't engage. I told Jason calmly, "We've talked about this. I'm not your bank. If you need help with a crib, I'll buy one. But I'm not giving you 20 grand. He rolled his eyes and muttered, "Cheap bastard?" Under his breath, Emily looked mortified and apologized later in private. Here's the kicker, though, 2 weeks after that. I get a call from a furniture store in town. They said I was listed as a guarantor on a payment plan Jason had set up for a whole nursery set. Crib, dresser, rocking chair, changing table. I nearly dropped my phone. I told them I never signed anything, apparently. Jason had written my name and info down without asking me. Luckily, the store required an actual signature and ID before finalizing it, so it got flagged. I confronted him, and he just shrugged and said, "Well, you should have been willing to help anyway. That was my breaking point." I told him straight up, "You ever pull that stunt again, I'll cut you out completely. Don't call me, don't text me. Nothing." He tried to guilt-trip me, saying, "So you're just going to abandon your niece before she's even born?" I said, "No, I'm going to set boundaries because you don't respect mine." Since then, I've tried to create some distance. I still check in with Emily occasionally, and I actually did buy them a decent crib with my own money. About $300. I had it delivered directly to their apartment. Jason didn't thank me, of course. Emily texted, "Thank you. It's perfect," and added a little heart emoji, which I appreciated. The rest of the family is split. My mom calls me weekly, sometimes just to chat. But the money thing always comes up sooner or later. She says she understands both sides, but then throws in little digs like, "Don't forget, family's all you really have." My dad surprised me by actually siding with me for once. He told me, "If Jason wanted a family, he should have been ready to provide for one. Don't wreck your future because he screwed up." Coming from him, that meant a lot. I'll be honest, though, I feel drained. I love my family, but this whole ordeal has made me realize how differently Jason and I see the world. To him, money is just something that comes and goes, and people who have it should share it. To me, money is security. It's the difference between moving forward in life or staying stuck. I'm still planning to be there when the baby's born. I want to be a good uncle. I've even started a savings account in my bank that I'll quietly contribute to over time. So when the kid turns 18, maybe there'll be something there for college or a car. Jason doesn't know about this, and I don't plan to tell him until way down the road. But as far as Jason goes, my trust in him is gone. He showed me he's willing to use manipulation, guilt, and even my personal information just to get what he wants. That's not just irresponsible, it's dangerous. So yeah, I'm holding my ground. I'm not writing a $20,000 check. I'm not bailing out my brother's mistakes, but I'll still be there for my niece, because none of this is her fault. Final update. So the baby was born. Her name is Lily, and she's beautiful. She came into the world 3 weeks early, small but healthy, and despite all the drama, when I held her for the first time, none of the money fights mattered in that moment. She had this tiny grip around my finger, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to be part of this kid's life no matter what. But reality came crashing in pretty quick. Jason barely texted me when Emily went into labor. It was my mom who called and told me to get down to the hospital. When I got there, Emily actually seemed glad I came. Jason, though, gave me the cold shoulder. He barely said 2 words to me the whole time. Fine. I wasn't there for him anyway. In the weeks that followed, things only got messier. Jason quit his part-time job to be more present for the baby. Emily was exhausted, up all night feeding and changing diapers, while Jason played video games and occasionally posted pictures of Lily like he was dad of the year. My mom and sister were running themselves ragged, helping with groceries and babysitting. I chipped in where I could. I'd stop by with diapers, food, or just to give Emily an extra set of hands. Then about a month in, Jason pulled the same stunt as before. He called me and said, "Look, I need you to loan me $5,000. The bills are piling up. Emily doesn't have paid maternity leave. And we're drowning here," I told him flat out. "Jason, I'll buy things for Lily, diapers, formula, clothes, whatever she needs, but I'm not handing you cash," he exploded, saying I was abandoning him in his time of need. He even went as far as saying, "If you won't step up as an uncle, then don't bother being in her life." That one hit me hard. For about a week, I really wrestled with whether I should just walk away. Why keep putting myself in situations where I'm the villain no matter what I do? But then Emily called me privately. She apologized for Jason's behavior and said, "I don't want Lily growing up without her uncle just because her dad can't swallow his pride." That honestly broke me a little, so I decided to take a different approach. I told Emily and Jason that I had opened a savings account for Lily. I explained that I'd be contributing directly to her future. College, first car, whatever she needs when she's older. But that money was off limits to anyone else. Jason hated the idea, called it performative, and said if I really cared, I'd hand him the money now, but Emily actually teared up and thanked me. That was kind of the turning point. I realized I can't fix Jason, and I can't make him grow up. But I can make choices that protect me while still showing up for Lily. Since then, my relationship with Jason has been strained at best. We still see each other at family gatherings, but it's mostly short, tense conversations. He'll toss out little digs about me being stingy, but I just let them slide now. Emily and I, though, have gotten closer. She leans on me for help sometimes, and I don't mind. She's actually grateful, and she respects boundaries. My parents have finally stopped nagging me about just helping Jason out. After the stunt with my information at the furniture store and his outburst at the hospital, even my mom admitted, "He's got some growing up to do." That was probably the first time in my life I've heard her say something critical about Jason. So here's where things stand now. Jason and I are not good. I don't trust him, and I doubt I ever will again. Emily and I have a decent, supportive relationship. I respect the hell out of her for holding things together. Lily is the bright spot in all of this. I'm going to be the uncle she can rely on. No matter what, the savings account is already started, and I plan to quietly build it over the years. Jason doesn't like it, but frankly, it's not his money, and it's not his call. The whole situation has been a harsh reminder that blood doesn't automatically mean trust, and sometimes being family means setting boundaries and holding them. Jason might never forgive me for not handing over the money, but that's fine. I can live with him being angry at me. What I couldn't live with would be draining my future, because I caved under guilt. And honestly, I sleep better at night knowing Lily will have something waiting for her when she's older, even if her dad never grows up. That's the choice I made. Stories number 14. I'm 26M wheelchair-bound, and my girlfriend 25F brought me to the casino for my birthday. She's demanding half of my winnings. What do I do? I was in a motorcycle accident last year and still wheelchair-bound. Hopefully by end of year I'll be out of it. My girlfriend of 6 years for my birthday brought me to the casino as I never went before, and being unable to drive meant I needed a way to get there. She has an alleged distaste for gambling, so she wanted nothing of it. Just drop off. I met a couple friends and spent a couple of hours doing slots. I ended up leaving with around CAD $3,500 more than I came in with. I told my girlfriend and she flat out said, I need to give her half because she drove me. And since we've been together for so long, it should be 50-50 split in any case. I wanted to use these to pay off the final remainder of my school loans with some leftover to treat her for a nice dinner and maybe a new piece of furniture. The short of it is she refused to pick me up, and we had a huge fight. It's been a few hours now and it hasn't really calmed down. She's not home. I own the house completely and won't respond to texts. On one hand, I feel guilty she got so angry, but I also think this is pretty stupid and telling of her character. I think I'm done. I'm not in the wrong, right? We don't share our finances, and in most respects, she's more well off than I. I inherited this house but otherwise work. My girlfriend gets a trust every month and ultimately makes more than I do. TLDR. I won $3,500 at the casino. Girlfriend demands half of it. Am I obliged to put up with it? Thanks to everyone for their advice. Top comments. Commenter 1. If you had lost money, would she have demanded to pay half of your losses? Commenter 2. You are totally in the right. I'm not sure what reality your girlfriend is living in, but you in no way owe her a dime, and I agree. This is very telling of her character. Commenter 3. That's just crazy of her asking for that. She should be excited for you, not demanding money. Update. Thanks for all the advice, folks. I never anticipated this getting any traction. I've broken up with her for her behavior. I can't keep myself in this kind of situation. She took it rather calm, but to be honest, I didn't give much room for a rebuttal or anything. She's making arrangements to move out. We relatively recently started cohabiting, so it's not as huge a blow as it could have been. Since it came up a few times, no, I never really relied on her considering my state. I still paid my bills and etc. My income never really changed beyond 4 or so weeks I had to take off for physiotherapy. Thankfully, I work sitting down and my employment wasn't affected. I never needed constant help either. Sometimes I'll ask for assistance, but maybe once a week or so, and of nothing major. Her family comes from a big family of people in the oil industry here in Alberta. Her father and mother are both engineers and made a pretty penny before they retired. My ex-girlfriend never needs to work in her life, except I guess for self-fulfillment, non-boredom. She gets around $4,000 a month, not counting her car, phone, etc., is paid for. Half of $3,500 is pretty much nothing to her. She could ring up a parent and have it in 10 minutes, no questions asked if she wanted to. And me saying this is not me saying she's spoiled rotten or anything. She's pretty conservative with her spending. Over half of what she makes is saved or invested. It's not spending spree $2,000 every day, and she lives rather mundane. And she did strand me. Thankfully, I had other transportation available from a buddy who stayed with me after all this went down. I don't think of her as a bad person, just very conceited and oblivious to how the world really works. I still love her, but it's a rather big shock moment where I realize our ideals don't really align, and it just won't work out. It's going to take me some time, but I'm sure I'll be better off for it. Final comments. Commenter 1. Even if you wouldn't break up with her over the money thing with the whole leaving you stranded thing, I'd be out. Commenter 2. Dude, that is crazy. After 6 years you just get blindsided by something like this? You haven't mentioned other signs, but man, this is weird. I'm sorry. I know your feelings are probably more complicated than what you've written. Take some time to enjoy shit you love and roll your ass back to a casino, 'cause you got a lucky thumb, pun intended. Stories number 15. Does anyone else shower like this? Or am I weird? I work closely with people and was bullied in JR High for being smelly. So I've always taken hygiene seriously. My husband has told me several times I always smell so good, and he's never been with someone so clean. My BF before him also mentioned how good I smell. I shower daily and wash my hair daily, but I only wash my face, armpits and vagina. I do have special soap for each area, but that's it. No scrubs, body wash, or anything else. Well, recently he asked what each soap was for, and I told him. He seemed super confused and said, "You don't wash your body?" I said no, never, and he looked disgusted. I've asked several friends who all said they were shocked because I never smell bad. I kinda thought this was somewhat normal for people with dry skin. Just wondering if it's really that strange to only wash those areas or not. Edit. I really feel like I need to be more specific about my lady area since people don't think I wash my ass. This might be time, but I've been waxing front to back for almost 10 years, so even when it's hairy, it really isn't. When I go number 2, I wipe, I literally remove the poop. So when I use a gentle soap to wash down there, it does the job. I wash it when I wash my vulva. People that are acting like I need an exorcism to remove what's on my ass might need to reflect. Comments. Commenter 1. Why don't you wash your body though? Commenter 2. I work in ECE. In an infant and early toddler room, I have cleaned many a baby toddler belly button. In those cases, it's often that parents don't know how to or are afraid to. I've legit taught so many parents how to. Just had a very casual conversation at pickup like, "Oh, by the way, I had some spare time today, and X's belly button has been kind of gunky for a bit, so I super gently cleaned it out." I know it's really hard when they're really little like this. It's actually easier for you at home though when they're fresh out of the bath. What I do is gently really wet the area with a warm cloth for a few minutes. I want everything inside to get really moist and soft. Then use a wet Q-tip to start to gently work it out. If it's hardened buildup, and you have hard edges come up, you can grab it with tweezers and pull the buildup out that way. Or lift it to keep working your wet Q-tip and more water in around it to clean up. At no point should it hurt your kid. The more frequently you clean their belly buttons out, the less chance they have to build up gunk and need bigger maintenance. And it's just a quick and easy swipe through during or after their bath, instead of a bigger ordeal. So many parents neglect to do anything until it's a big navel stone that I'm digging out, especially if their kid's belly button has a ton of folds or is really deep. I've had some thank me and tell me they were planning on having their pediatrician take care of it on their next milestone app too, because they didn't notice anything until it was a big stone and had no clue what to do. And I'm here like, fam, clean your kids' belly buttons before this happens. And if it happens, like, water and gentle cleaning. Little bit of gentle soap doesn't hurt either. It's not that hard. You will not break the baby, I promise. If I can do this for a feisty, spicy toddler that bites and kicks for fun on a good day, you got this, folks. It works the same way for your elders. I have done elder care. It works the same way for your elders. Gently clean while bathing. If it builds up, just gently clean after bathing while they're laying down. Commenter 3. I work at a dream office, and this is 100% what we recommend for people with dry skin, eczema, psoriasis, older individuals with limited mobility, and for lots of skin issues using non-scented gentle soap, which most people find baffling. I think we forget that daily showering, scented soaps, and body scrubs are all human inventions essentially. It doesn't kill you and you don't smell, and so if it works for you, keep doing what you're doing. Commenter 4. I don't think you need to full body wash every time if your skin gets dry, but at least once a week I would recommend pits. Underboob depending on if they're big enough to be sweating, ears, belly button, face, ass, vulva, and feet should be washed every time you shower. Reply. I am really good about Q-tipping my belly button and ears. I think I will start doing a once-a-week scrub based on what everyone is saying. Stories number 16. I surprised my girlfriend and it backfired in the worst way. I'm 20 and my girlfriend Emma is 21. We've been together for about a year now, and until this weekend I thought we were in a pretty solid place. I guess I should start by saying I'm not the most experienced guy when it comes to relationships. She's actually my first serious girlfriend. I've dated casually, but this one has felt different. I really thought she was the one I could see a future with. So here's what happened. Saturday night I was out with my buddy Mark. We'd been hanging out all day, riding around on my bike, and we decided to grab some food from this spot near the beach. The owner, Dave, is a friend of mine. I've known him since high school, and he's always hooking me up with extra food or drinks. While we were waiting for our order, I was checking my phone and saw on Instagram that Emma had posted a story. She was literally right there at the same beach, just a short walk from where I was. I shot her a quick text asking if she wanted to come grab food with us. She replied that she was already with her friends. Totally fine with me, no big deal. I know her friends. I've hung out with them plenty of times. But then she added that she was already kinda drunk. That's what made me pause. I know how Emma gets when she drinks. She's fun, sure, But she's also not the best at keeping her boundaries when alcohol is involved. Not saying she's unfaithful, but she gets way too trusting, way too careless. And I've seen people try to take advantage of that in the past. So I got this idea in my head. Since Dave had given us a ton of food, way more than Mark and I could eat, I thought, why not drop some off to Emma and her friends? It wasn't like I was trying to check up on her. I genuinely thought it would be a nice gesture like, hey, I was thinking of you. Here's some food for you and your crew. Honestly, I thought she'd be excited and happy to see me. I'd be over the moon if she surprised me like that. When we walked down to where she said she was, that's when everything flipped. She wasn't with the usual group of friends I know. She was sitting on a blanket with 4 guys I'd never seen before. No girls, just her and them. And one of the guys had his hand on her back like they'd been close all night. That's when I froze for a second. I didn't want to just storm over there and cause a scene, but I also wasn't about to turn around and act like I hadn't seen what I saw. So I went up, tried to keep it casual, and just said, "Hey, what's up?" Emma looked up at me, and the expression on her face is something I don't think I'll ever forget. She looked disappointed, embarrassed, almost angry that I was standing there. She didn't smile, didn't say hi, didn't even make eye contact with me. Just this look like I'd ruined her night by showing up. I tried to play it off, held out the food, and asked if she wanted it. She barely looked at me and said, "No," in this sharp, annoyed tone, like I'd just asked her the dumbest question in the world. The whole group went quiet, and it was painfully awkward. The guys just stared at me like I was intruding on their territory or something. It hit me hard, man. I'd walked over there thinking I was doing something sweet, and instead, I felt like the unwanted boyfriend barging in where I didn't belong. And because I was on my bike, I couldn't carry all the food back. So I just set it down and left. Mark followed me, and he didn't say much, but I could tell he was just as thrown off by how that went down. When I got home, I replayed the whole thing in my head. Was it stupid to surprise her like that? Was I out of line? I mean, I know if the roles were reversed and she surprised me with food while I was out with friends, I'd be so damn happy. I'd brag about how thoughtful she was, but her reaction made me feel like I'd crossed some invisible line. Later that night, I texted her asking if everything was okay. She replied hours later saying I embarrassed her in front of her friends. She said it made her look uncool that her boyfriend was showing up unannounced, like I was checking up on her. That stung. I told her I wasn't checking up. I was just dropping off food because I thought she'd appreciate it. She left me on red. The whole thing has been eating at me. I don't want to be the clingy boyfriend. I've tried to give her space. I don't blow up her phone. I don't demand to know where she is every second. But I can't lie. Seeing her with those guys, and her being so cold to me in that moment, it shook me. It made me question where I actually stand in her life. Now I'm stuck in this weird place. Part of me thinks, yeah, maybe I was stupid. Maybe surprises don't always land the way you think they will. But another part of me keeps going back to her reaction. If she really loved me, if she was proud to be with me, wouldn't she have been happy to see me? Wouldn't she have at least said hi instead of acting like I was an inconvenience? Mark told me later, "Dude, if that was my girlfriend and she looked at me like that, I'd take it as a huge red flag, and I don't know if I'm overthinking it, but it does feel like a red flag. I haven't confronted her about the guys yet, because I don't want to come off as controlling or paranoid. But in my gut, I can't shake the feeling that something about this whole situation wasn't right. So yeah, I don't know. Was it stupid to try and surprise her? Or is this a sign that I'm not the kind of boyfriend she actually wants? It's been a few days since that night on the beach, and I've had a lot of time to sit with everything that went down. I don't even know where to start because my head has been everywhere. I guess the biggest thing is, I finally sat down with her to talk about what happened. I'll be real. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to reach out. Part of me thought I should just let it be and fade away. But the other part of me needed answers. I didn't want to just assume the worst and have it eat me alive. So I called her and asked if she'd meet up. To my surprise, she agreed. We ended up meeting at this little coffee spot we both like, which already felt weird because normally we'd be joking and comfortable. But this time the air was heavy. At first, it was awkward. She looked kind of guilty but also defensive, like she was waiting for me to come at her. I tried to keep it calm. I told her I wasn't mad she was out with friends, but I needed to understand why she acted the way she did when I showed up. And man, hearing her side didn't exactly make me feel better. She said she didn't expect me, and when she saw me walk up, she panicked because she thought I'd make a scene or get upset that she was hanging with people I didn't know. I told her I wasn't trying to make a scene. I literally brought food for her and her friends, just trying to do something nice. She admitted she was embarrassed, not because of me exactly, but because she thought it looked like I was checking up on her. She didn't like the idea of her new friends thinking she had a boyfriend who didn't trust her. I asked about the guys, especially the one who had his hand on her. She brushed it off and said he was just touchy when he drinks, and it didn't mean anything. I can't lie, that stung. Maybe I'm just wired differently. But if someone had their hands on her in a way that looked more than friendly, I'd expect her to set a boundary instead. She made me feel like I was the one overreacting for even noticing it. The more we talked, the more I realized there's this gap between how we see things. To me, showing up with food was a gesture of love. To her, it was an invasion of her space with these new people. She told me she feels like I don't always let her breathe, which confused the hell out of me because I barely see her during the week as it is. It was honestly the first time I felt like maybe she doesn't even want me in her life the way I thought she did. I left that conversation more confused than when I walked in. On one hand, she kept saying she cares about me and wants us to work. On the other, her actions keep telling me something different. I've been replaying her face in my head that night on the beach. That look of disappointment when she saw me. And I can't get past it. If the roles were reversed, and she surprised me, I'd be grinning ear to ear. I'd never want her to feel like she was intruding. Since then, I've been keeping my distance. I haven't texted her much, and honestly, she hasn't reached out much either. That silence speaks volumes. I've been talking with my buddy Mark about it, and he straight up told me he thinks she's checked out, but doesn't want to be the one to officially end things. That hit hard, but deep down, I think he might be right. I don't know where this is going yet, but I do know I can't keep ignoring how it all made me feel. If someone makes you feel like a burden for showing them love, that's not the right person. So this is probably going to be the last time I write about this because I finally have some clarity. After the beach incident and that awkward coffee conversation, things between us never really bounced back. The silence got louder every day. Texts became shorter. Phone calls stopped happening. And it felt like I was the only one even trying to hold the pieces together. I gave it a week of space before I asked her to come over so we could really talk. I didn't want to drag things out, but I also didn't want to end something without at least giving it one last honest shot. She came by and it was weird from the moment she walked in. She didn't hug me, didn't sit next to me, just kind of plopped on the other side of the couch like a guest in my own place. That told me more than words could. I asked her point blank if she even wanted to be with me anymore. She hesitated, and that hesitation was basically my answer. She finally said she does care about me, but she doesn't feel the same spark anymore. She admitted she's been meeting new people at school and at the beach, and she doesn't want to feel tied down. The kicker was when she said she doesn't like that I showed up unannounced, because it made her realize she wants more independence. I just sat there for a second, taking it all in. A part of me wanted to argue, to remind her of all the times I was there for her, the rides I gave her when she needed them, the nights I stayed up late making sure she got home safe, the fact that I was always in her corner. But then I realized, if she doesn't want it, none of that matters. So I told her the truth, that I loved her, but I wasn't going to beg someone to want me. I told her I didn't regret trying to surprise her, because that's just who I am. I show love through little gestures, and if that made me too much for her, then she's not my person. She cried a little. I didn't. I think I had already done all my grieving in the days leading up to this. We ended things that night. No screaming, no drama, just two people who weren't on the same page anymore. She left and I haven't heard from her since. It's been tough, I won't lie. That first morning waking up without a good morning text hit hard. But honestly, every day since, I've felt a little lighter. I've been spending more time with my friends, hitting the gym more, even reconnecting with family I'd been distant from because I was always wrapped up in her. I realized I was bending over backward for someone who couldn't even look happy to see me show up with free food. That's not love. That's me chasing scraps of attention. Looking back, I don't think it was stupid to surprise her. I think it was just the wrong person to do it for. The right person wouldn't look disappointed. They'd light up. They'd grab the food out of my hands, introduce me to their friends proudly, and thank me for thinking of them. That's the kind of energy I want in my life. So yeah, it sucks to let go. But I'm done settling for someone who makes me feel like a burden. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. If someone's embarrassed by your love, then your love belongs somewhere else. Stories number 17. Aita for telling my dad his choices made me see remarrying after a partner dies as a bad thing. My mom died when I 17M was 5. My dad remarried when I was 7. There was a big difference in dad before he met his wife and after. Before he had a few photos of mom in our house, he talked about her with me. He brought me to her grave and celebrated her birthday with me. After he met his wife, and they married after 5 months of knowing each other, the photos were taken down and given away, along with anything that was mom. All her cookbooks, all her jewelry and stuff. It went mostly to my grandparents' house, but Dad gave some stuff to his friends for their wives. He never talked about Mom after his wife moved in. We didn't celebrate her birthday, and him and his wife told me it made the wife feel left out if we did it, so we needed to stop. Same thing with visiting her grave. It was a few months after he got remarried, and I was upset and angry and told him it was like he forgot Mom, and he said he had to. He said remarrying means you need to be all in with the new person, and they need to take center stage. He told me it would be good for me to do the same, because his wife was my mom now too. I heard his wife say after that, she was glad he added the part about me because she felt like I wanted to put Mom between us, and she hated it. We've had a strained and kind of toxic relationship ever since. I resent him. And I think his way of moving on was unfair to me and unfair to the love he says he felt for Mom. I feel like he disrespects both of us by forgetting her like that because she loved him. She was his wife, and she's not even allowed to be a memory. And for me, there is no me without Mom. There's also no new mom or second mom. There's only ever one mom, and I care more about remembering her than his wife, or respecting her feelings, which I think make a bad combo for a widower with a kid. But anyway, my dad gets annoyed with me for not listening to him and forgetting Mom and loving his wife like he wants me to. He tells me to get over it twice a month and sometimes more. He's gone through my room and told me if I had anything of Mom's in there, it had to go. He wrote cards to his wife from me that called her Mom, and told me I don't get to use just her name because she's been mothering me since I was 7. Dad saw me planning to leave his house in January when I turned 18, and he decided we needed therapy, and he said we had some things we needed to talk out. For him, that meant needing to talk it out over his wife and how I disrespect his remarriage, and he told me he saw an assignment. I never handed in for debate homework where I argued on why remarrying is the wrong choice to make. He said it was a selfish view, and saying that remarrying replaces dead loved ones and kids' parents, and that kids deserve better than remarriage, is such an awful thing to wish on a parent. He ranted about it and showed the teacher the printout he made. He kept that for 11 months without saying or doing anything with it until that session. He said it was disturbing that his kid, who gained a wonderful mom out of remarriage, would suggest it's wrong to remarry and parents should die alone because reasons. The therapist had to make him shut up, and she told Dad if he refused to listen, then therapy wasn't for him and we should leave. She said this because he kept trying to talk over her and stop me from talking by doing all the fucking talking. He gave in and shut up. Then I told him my views and that were shaped by his choices. His choice in words and actions, and he showed me the worst of remarriage. I told him his wife was the second worst thing to happen to me after losing Mom because he met her, and he changed. And he made me see all of the ugly and none of the possible good there could be. I told him I didn't even use that as homework, and that I wrote it after another lecture from him about his wife. And it was a lot like a journal entry that I forgot about after I wrote it. But I told him he had shaped remarriage as negative for me, and I would always look at him as the worst type to remarry because he disrespected Mom and me in the process. Dad spent days after the session telling me I was wrong to blame him or to put my views on him. So I emailed the therapist about him doing that, and she reached out to him, and we never went back. And he's still mad, and told me I'm such a narrow-minded child who only cares about myself and Mom. I told him since he refused to care I had to. Comments, Commenter 1. NTA. And I'd tell him that your mom was a wonderful person who deserves to be lovingly remembered unlike him, who you will gladly forget the minute you walk out the door at 18. Reply, I might save that for walking out the door. But it's true. I'll make sure to forever remember Mom while I let him be the past, since he feels like it's okay to do in order to move forward. Commenter 2, NTA. A classic example of someone who hears but never listens. No matter how much you explain to him, he may never validate your feelings because to him being right is more important. Glad you spoke up though, reply. That's been him for so long now. It didn't surprise me that he wouldn't shut up in therapy, not even to let me answer stuff the therapist asked. And I know he tried her patience, and she must have been so close to kicking her out of her therapy room. Commenter 3 NTA. Get your documents now, keep them safe. Don't wait to turn 18 to get them, or your dad may say no. You need Social Security card, driver's license, passport if you have one, birth certificate, bank account statements to have him removed from your accounts the day you turn 18, or withdraw all your money and open a new account at a different bank. Do not get copies. You need originals, especially birth certificate and Social Security card. Edited to add judgment, reply, I have them all. When I got a few hours alone, I went to where I thought they'd be and brought them to my room. He still hasn't missed them, so that's extra helpful. Commenter 4 NTA. My God, I'm so sorry that this was your childhood. Your dad is a fucking monster. To try to basically erase your mom's memory is beyond horrific. Do we need to move on? Sure, remarry? Sure, but to talk a 7-year-old that all memories of her mom are banished, and to only look up to the new wife is barbaric treatment of a child. If his new wife was so insecure about your mom's memory, that's on her. Guessing no more therapy since the therapist rightfully showed your dad how fucked up he is, but I do hope you go to individual therapy. And I hope your grandparents kept your mom's stuff so you can have it. I sincerely wish you the best. Commenter 5 NTA. Your dad threw everything away, including his relationship with you. And he's been on this tangent for so long that he can never admit that he was wrong. I'm so sorry for your loss, not just your mom, but also the stability and security of a home. I'm in awe of your ability to stand in your conviction and not yield under the pressure, and dare I say abuse your father is dishing out. I hope there is some support through family and/or friends that help ease this. Please plan for a future far, far away and find help to work through the dumpster fire that has been your life. Reply, thanks. It's true that sometimes we lose more than one person when someone dies. Sometimes we lose people around us because of their shitty choices, and Dad made a ton of those. More than enough to destroy our relationship for good. Stories number 18. My coworker casually kills animals and acts like it's completely normal. Just to clarify, I'm not some bleeding heart vegan. I understand that we need to kill animals for meat and such, but this dude is just insane. I have a coworker, pasty, scrawny, hick motherfucker in his 30s but looks 15 at the oldest. During his lunch break a couple weeks back, an ibis came up to him wanting some food. We work at a zoo theme park, and people always feed them fries. And instead of shooing it away like a sane person, he just grabbed it and broke its fucking neck. Keep in mind this is a white ibis, which is protected in Florida under the Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And now he's all offended that me and some of our other co-workers don't want to talk to him anymore. He tried to justify it by saying, "It tried to steal my food? What do you want me to do? Not kill it, you fucking freak. It's the size of a fucking football, just shove it away." We also have a wild peacock that sorta just wanders the park. He's very old and the last member of his family left living. Last time he walked near where I was working, my coworker instantly started going on and on talking about how badly he wanted to kill him and slow roast him. He made sure to clarify that peacock meat doesn't even taste good. He just wants to do it. Our other coworker was like, "Damn, what did the peacock ever do to you?" And this guy said that apparently the reason he's foaming at the mouth to kill this elderly bird was because he tried to square up with him once when he passed him on the walkway. Yeah, that seems like a healthy response. He also loves bragging about how he kills any and all raccoons and opossums that come onto his property. I know raccoons can be a problem if you have smaller livestock. My grandma lost 6 hens to a couple of them last year. But for all this guy talks about killing animals, he has never once mentioned having any livestock. Comments. Commenter 1. Your coworker is killing animals at the zoo park he works at? That's probably worth reporting to a supervisor, don't you think? Commenter 2. If he killed a protected bird, you can get authorities involved, and at least he'll be on someone's radar when he kills a person or 5. Commenter 3. Report him to your management. You already have other witnesses who heard him say these things. He needs to be fired from this career around animals. Commenter 4. And you're not reporting him to your bosses? That makes you complicit in failing to protect any other animals from this cruel, evil prick. You need to end this. Stories number 19. Aita for being furious that my wife's half-sister is bulldozing our marriage and trying to take over as a parent. My wife 35F and I 36M have been married for 13 years and have 2 kids. 12 and 14, she's always been a som while I work full-time. A few months ago, she suddenly discovered she had a half-sister, and they instantly became glued at the hip. At first, I thought it was sweet, but now it feels like this woman has barged into my family and is rewriting the rules of my marriage without any respect for me. She was the one who took our daughter out for her very first driving lesson, something I'd always dreamed of doing as a milestone with my wife. She pushed my wife into getting matching tattoos, even though I've made it clear for years that I prefer her natural and hate tattoos. And the most infuriating part? She straight up showed up with a puppy for our kids after I had already said no. Not only did she completely undermine me as a parent, but now I'm stuck cleaning up after a dog I never wanted. On top of that, she constantly takes digs at me, gives advice to my wife that feels deliberately divisive, and makes me feel like an outsider in my own home. It's crystal clear she doesn't like me, and at this point, I honestly think she's doing some of this just to provoke me. I've told my wife how disrespected I feel, but she dismisses it and says I should be happy she finally has a sibling to bond with. I would be if her sister wasn't bulldozing her way into our marriage, undermining my authority with our kids, and treating me like I don't exist. Aita for being this angry and demanding that my wife finally set real boundaries with her half-sister before she tears our family apart. Comments? Commenter 1. You need couple counseling before she manipulates her way to your divorce. And gift her back the puppy. Commenter 2. NTA. Give the dog to the SIL and tell the kids that the dog lives with her, and they can visit with it when she brings it over. Tell your wife you two need marriage counseling or you are out. Tell her you are glad she has a sibling, but her sibling is not part of your marriage or your kid's parent. Commenter 3. You need couples counseling immediately to establish boundaries in a safe environment with your wife, so that it doesn't look like you're bulldozing her and she doesn't feel that way. You need to work through your issues with your counselor and set forth boundaries with the sister with that counselor, so that the sister understands the seriousness of the situation and your feelings. You need to integrate your marriage will be over if it continues the way it's going because of the actions of the sister and how it makes you feel. Commenter 4. NTA. But this is a wife problem. She's the on allowing her half-sister to be that way. I think you're happy she finally has a sibling. But the sibling needs boundaries, as anyone. Whatever happens in your marriage, kids, is between you and your wife. Period. Nobody gets to do anything with your kids unless you both approve it, and that nobody includes half-sister. That's perfectly reasonable. About the puppy, I would be enraged, and I am a dog person. Stories number 20. My skirt ripped on the subway, and a car of strangers became a seam team. It was one of those New York evenings when the subway feels like the entire city has decided to travel at the exact same time. I was coming off a long day at the office, exhausted, carrying my laptop bag and counting the stops until home. I'd been sitting near the door, scrolling my phone, when I noticed an older guy, looked like a construction worker, eyeing my seat like he might collapse if he had to stand much longer. So I did the decent thing and stood up. That's when it happened. I didn't notice the tiny jagged bolt sticking out under the seat until I felt the sharp tug and heard that terrible popping sound. It was quick, like ripping Velcro, but the cold rush of air against the back of my thigh told me everything I didn't want to know. My pencil skirt, the one I'd just gotten dry cleaned, had split wide open right down the back seam. I froze, totally froze. My bag felt suddenly useless, too small to cover anything. My heart was pounding, and the only thing I could think was, "Dear God, this car is packed, and I'm standing here half exposed like some kind of slapstick comedy routine." Before I could even react, this woman across from me, probably mid-30s, wearing blue scrubs, jumped up. She said, "Honey, take this," and shoved a navy sweatshirt into my hands. Her name tag said Nurse Laura, and she had that calm, capable energy you only see in medical staff who've been through absolute chaos and somehow come out smiling. Another woman, maybe late 20s, dark curls spilling out of her tote bag as she rummaged, called out, "I've got pins. Hold on." She introduced herself later as Rachel, a graphic designer, but at that moment she was basically the MVP. She pulled out a little tin of safety pins like some kind of urban Mary Poppins. Meanwhile, a tall guy in a suit, later I learned his name was Marcus, took off his jacket and held it up like a curtain, shielding me from half the car. "You're good. Nobody can see," he kept saying, trying to reassure me. Someone else angled their phone camera so I could use it as a makeshift mirror. Another stranger, a woman with braids, shifted her shopping bags to block the other side. It was like an instant pit crew, a seam team within 60 seconds flat. Rachel was kneeling behind me, pinning the torn seam with practiced hands. Laura tied the sweatshirt around my waist like an emergency skirt, cinching it tight. Marcus held his jacket until the very last pin clicked into place. The whole time, people in the car were murmuring little encouragements. "You're fine. We got you. Don't worry." At one point, someone even cracked a joke about starting a subway fashion line, and the car filled with soft, sympathetic laughter instead of the humiliation I'd been bracing for. When the train finally screeched to my stop, I stepped off in my makeshift sweatshirt skirt, safety pins holding me together, my laptop bag slung awkwardly to one side. As the doors closed, I looked back and saw them, Laura giving me a little thumbs up, Rachel waving like she'd just fixed a friend's prom dress, Marcus with his suit jacket draped over one arm. They all gave me this kind of, "You got this" look, like teammates after a quick huddle. I walked the last few blocks home, the pins clicking faintly with each step. My cheeks were still burning, but my chest felt lighter than it had in weeks. I'd started the ride convinced I was about to live through one of the most mortifying moments of my life, and instead, I walked away feeling like I'd just been reminded that people can be so ridiculously good when it counts. The whole thing probably lasted less than 5 minutes, but it stuck with me. In a city where everyone's usually in a rush, where eye contact feels like a luxury, a car full of strangers turned into my emergency sewing circle, and honestly, it kind of made me fall in love with humanity again. So, I didn't think I'd be coming back to post about my skirt disaster, but apparently life wanted to make the whole thing even more surreal. After I got home that night, I actually sat down on my couch still in my sweatshirt skirt, took a deep breath, and just started laughing. Like full-on hysterical laughter. It was either that or cry. My roommate Katie walked out of her room, looked at me doubled over, and then at my outfit. She was like, "Why are you dressed like you lost a bet at summer camp?" When I explained what happened, she was equal parts horrified and delighted. She made me spin around to show her the safety pins and then said, "Damn, New Yorkers are brutal, but apparently also kind of amazing." The next morning, I noticed the pins had actually held up perfectly overnight. Rachel, if you're out there reading this somehow, you could probably have a career as a seamstress if graphic design ever gets old. I carefully pulled everything apart, folded the sweatshirt, and tossed it in the wash so I could return it to Laura the nurse. Here's where things get weird. I decided to head back to that same train line the next evening at the same time, just on the off chance I'd run into one of them. And believe it or not, I did. Not the whole seam team, but Marcus, the guy who used his jacket as a shield, was standing near the doors scrolling his phone. I almost chickened out, but I tapped him on the shoulder and just said, "Hey, thanks for being my human curtain yesterday." He recognized me immediately and cracked up. We ended up talking for a few stops, and he said he'd been telling his coworkers about it all day because it was the most wholesome New York thing that had ever happened to him. He even admitted, "Normally people are fighting over seats or pretending nobody else exists, and then suddenly we're all Project Runway, Subway edition." I gave him my number in case he ever saw Rachel or Laura again, because I wanted to get the sweatshirt back to her. He texted me later that night that he'd run into Rachel at a coffee shop near Union Square. Apparently the city really is small when it wants to be, and she was still laughing about the whole ordeal. He gave her my number, and the next day I got a random text. "This is Rachel, aka Safety Pin Girl. Glad my emergency kit came in handy. We ended up grabbing coffee that weekend." She said she'd been carrying those pins around for years, and finally felt like it paid off. I gave her back the sweatshirt to pass on to Laura since she works in a hospital, and I don't exactly have her contact info. It's been a week now, and I keep thinking about how easily that moment could have gone the opposite way. Snickers, side eyes, people ignoring me while I tried to cover myself. Instead, I ended up with this little temporary team of strangers who turned what could have been a mortifying nightmare into this oddly uplifting memory. Katie joked that if my skirt hadn't ripped, I'd still just be trudging through my commute like usual. But now I've got a new friend, maybe two, and a story I'll probably tell for the rest of my life. And to the person who yelled, "Seam team, assemble." As the doors closed behind me, I didn't even mention that in the original post because I thought nobody would believe me. You're a legend. Okay, last update from me because I feel like this little saga deserves a proper ending. It's been about a month since the skirt incident, and I can honestly say it changed my perspective on people and on the city I live in. I've been in New York for over a decade, and I'd fallen into the habit of putting my headphones in, eyes down, assuming everyone else on the train just wanted to be left alone. That night cracked that wall a little. It reminded me that strangers can actually step in and show up for you, even if they'll never see you again. First off, I did reconnect with everyone from the seam team, Rachel Safety Pin Girl, and I now text pretty regularly, and she actually invited me to her apartment once to fix a ripped jacket because, as she put it, "I'm officially her crash test dummy for amateur tailoring." Laura, the nurse who handed me her sweatshirt, works crazy shifts, but we managed to meet for coffee on one of her days off, and I gave her the sweatshirt back washed, folded and with a Starbucks gift card tucked in. She laughed and told me not to make a big deal out of it, but she seemed touched. And then there's Marcus, the jacket shield guy. We've been out a few times now. Nothing heavy yet, but there's something there. Our first official date was actually him inviting me to walk through a flea market, and he joked about finding me a skirt that can survive a subway seat. We ended up staying out until nearly midnight just talking about books, movies, and the weirdest things we'd ever seen on public transit. It felt easy in a way I wasn't expecting. As for me, I've been doing a lot of thinking. At first I was mortified, like this was going to be one of those cringe memories I'd carry forever. But the more I replay it, the more I realize it turned into something good. It showed me how quickly people can choose kindness instead of cruelty. I can still picture that moment in the subway car where everyone moved like a pit crew without a word. One person handing me pins, another holding a jacket, another angling their phone so I could see what was happening. No judgment, no hesitation, just instinctive teamwork. It's made me softer in small ways. I've started looking up more when I ride the train. I've caught myself offering directions to lost tourists or helping someone hoist a stroller up the stairs, instead of pretending I didn't notice. Not because I'm suddenly a saint, but because I've realized those tiny gestures ripple in ways we don't always see. The skirt itself. Fixed, I took it to a tailor and they patched it perfectly. I wore it last week to a dinner with Katie, and she made me stand up so she could inspect the repair job. She's still milking this whole thing for jokes. So yeah, what started as one of the most embarrassing moments of my life ended up becoming one of the most unexpectedly wholesome experiences I've had in years. I don't think I'll ever forget standing on that platform afterward with a sweatshirt tied around my waist and pins holding everything together, watching the train pull away while a group of strangers waved like teammates who'd just finished a race. Sometimes the city feels harsh, but every once in a while, it feels like it's reminding you, you're not as alone here as you think you are. And if you're wondering, yes, Marcus is still texting me. He signed his last one. From your official human curtain, at your service. I think I'll keep him around. Stories number 21. I 34M met a lovely woman 37F last week. Now my brain is in conflict. Long story short, I met a lovely woman last week, shared a few laughs, made some music at that event, and later on went to a friend his place to just chill for a bit. She had a few drinks, but nothing fancy. Yet she was pretty touchy-feely, not inappropriately. But things like touching my arm while laughing, making eye contact a lot, that stuff. Anyway, we say goodbye, and a few days later she asks me when I want to hang out again to work on some music stuff. That was yesterday. The time flew by. She was supposed to hang out for about 2 hours or so. That turned into 6. And while she wasn't as touchy-feely, there still was a ton of eye contact, and she laughed at all my stupid attempts at jokes. We bonded over our mutual interest in Disney and our love of music. Around the evening, she tells me, I'm going home, going to eat, and I'll catch you later. Now here's the thing. Not even 2 minutes later, she calls me, instead of me just eating alone and watch a movie alone, I can also eat something with you and watch a movie with you, right? Unless you want to be alone. So here my heart starts racing, right? Sure, let's do that. While we were watching the movie, nothing happened, but she also doesn't mind us sitting next to each other on the couch. Sounds weird, but it didn't feel awkward or anything. Anyway, movie ends. We end the evening. I kiss her on the cheek, and that's where my insecurities come around the corner. All of a sudden, the moment she left, my brain was like, what if she has a boyfriend? What if she's like this with all her friends? What if she's just touchy-feely because that's how she is? Yet I'm absolutely comfortable with myself around her. My mask is off, my guard is down. That's rare for me, so I'm making myself crazy, unfortunately. Any advice on what you would think do in a situation like this? Like, am I completely missing something, or comments? Commenter 1. Sounds like she likes you a lot. Ask her out because you clearly like her too. Maybe start with, I'm single and I probably should have asked you before, but are you? Hope it works out. Commenter 2 bro. Get with the program and make your moves before she bounces. Commenter 3. Oh my goodness, you poor man. You are oblivious. She would not have asked you to dinner and a movie if she didn't like you. A lot. Don't screw this up. Get on your phone right this minute and ask her out. She's waiting for you. Commenter 4. There's absolutely no point doing nothing and torturing yourself about it. Just message her and say, I've really been enjoying spending time with you. Would you like to go on an official date soon? Or similar. Stories number 22. The United Nations is a joke. I don't even know why I still bother watching the UN's annual General Assembly speeches anymore. Every year it's the same circus. A bunch of speeches, walkouts, applause lines, symbolic gestures, and nothing tangible for the people who are actually living under bombs, dictatorships, or poverty. But this year hit me differently. Maybe because I've been following the Middle East more closely, or maybe because I'm just older and more cynical. Either way, I sat on my couch with CNN on one screen and my laptop open streaming the UN feed. And all I could think the entire time was, this whole institution has become a farce. Here's what got me. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, was scheduled to give a speech. Predictably, the moment he walked up to the podium, about 100 diplomats from 50 different countries stood up and walked out in protest of Israel's war in Gaza. Cameras panned to rows of empty seats, like a deliberate visual statement. And look, I get it. I'm not here to debate whether or not Israel deserves criticism. Plenty of people feel strongly both ways. But what struck me wasn't the walkout itself. It was what happened later that same day. Because a few hours later, on that same stage, Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa took the podium. The same Ahmed al-Sharaa, who was once designated a global terrorist by the United States government, not just a guy with some shady associations, no, a man who literally used to lead Jabhat al-Nusra, an al-Qaeda affiliate that specialized in ISIS-style atrocities. And yet there he was, walking up to the iconic green marble podium, flanked by bodyguards, and the room that had just emptied in protest of Netanyahu was now applauding him, applauding, and that's when I lost it. Because I remember what Jabhat al-Nusra did. You can still find the reports online if you look hard enough. Though they don't make the evening news anymore, they were notorious for massacres of civilians in Syria. Not just combatants, families, kids, old people, anyone unlucky enough to be in their path. They went after minority communities like the Druze and the Alawites. They staged executions and filmed them in the same gruesome way ISIS did, making propaganda videos with beheadings, torture sessions, even the mutilation of prisoners. They did suicide bombings in crowded neighborhoods. They kidnapped journalists. They used car bombs on civilian convoys. This man led all of that. And the United States at one point said, "This guy is a terrorist. Do not deal with him." And yet, here we are, years later, with the geopolitics flipped upside down. Ahmed al-Sharaa is not only being allowed to stand at the UN and give a speech, but he's being applauded for it, and the kicker? He's receiving tacit support from the same US government that once swore he was an enemy of humanity. I sat there watching all of this unfold, and I just felt this heavy, bitter frustration building in my chest. I thought about the people who actually lived through his reign of terror in Syria, the ones who lost family members to beheadings, the ones whose neighborhoods were wiped out by suicide bombers, the kids who grew up in refugee camps because of men like him. How would they feel watching the world's so-called peacekeepers stand and clap for this guy? How would they feel knowing that the people who call themselves leaders are perfectly fine, brushing all of that aside in the name of diplomacy? It made the whole UN look like a performative theater show, not a place of principles or accountability, just a revolving door of who's in and who's out, depending on the year, the war and the deals happening behind closed doors. The applause isn't about morality. The walkouts aren't about morality. It's all optics. It's all chess pieces being moved around by governments that don't actually care who bleeds. As long as the deals keep flowing, and maybe that's always been the case. Maybe I'm late to the realization, but it hit me harder than ever watching those two events side by side. 100 diplomats staging a dramatic exit when Netanyahu speaks. Fine. You want to make a point. But those same diplomats, plus others, nodding politely and clapping for a man whose forces were responsible for torture, executions, kidnappings, massacres. That's not principled. That's hypocrisy. What really gets under my skin is the double standard. When it's politically convenient, someone is branded a terrorist, an outcast, someone we don't negotiate with. And then, when the winds shift, the same person is suddenly rebranded as a leader, a voice for his people, someone we can work with. Meanwhile, the people whose lives were destroyed, they never get their justice. They never get their closure. They never get their standing ovation at the UN. Watching Ahmed al-Sharaa speak made me think of when I was in college, and I had a professor, Dr. Emily Warren, who used to hammer home the idea that international organizations live and die by credibility. She said once, "The UN is only as strong as its moral backbone." At the time, I thought she was being a little dramatic, but after seeing this, she was right. What moral backbone does the UN have left when it applauds someone with literal rivers of blood on his hands? I know people will say the UN does good things, peacekeeping missions, humanitarian aid, mediating conflicts, sure. But if at the very core it's willing to platform warlords and terrorists as long as it's politically expedient, then what message does that send to the world? That you can massacre civilians, torture prisoners, run suicide bombings, and still end up getting a standing ovation years later? That as long as you wait it out and the right powers shift, the world will eventually forgive and forget. I turned the TV off after his speech, I couldn't even sit through the rest of the General Assembly. I felt sick, honestly. And not just sick at the UN, but sick at the thought that we're all just kind of used to this now. Like we've all normalized the idea that hypocrisy is the norm, that morality is just a talking point, that the victims don't matter. So yeah, maybe this is just a rant, but I can't shake the feeling. The United Nations is a joke. Not the kind of joke you laugh at, but the kind that makes you wonder how we can still pretend this system means anything at all. So I posted my thoughts online shortly after watching the speeches, partly as a way to vent, because I couldn't stop thinking about it, and partly to see if anyone else felt the same frustration. I figured people might just shrug it off, but the responses I got, well, they were intense. Some agreed, some argued, some tried to explain the real politic of the situation. But mostly it turned into this long, messy debate about what morality even means on an international stage. A few hours later, I got a message from someone who works at a think tank in DC. A guy named Ryan Matthews. He said he'd been following my post and basically confirmed what I already suspected. A lot of the UN's optics are just political theater. He told me about meetings behind the scenes that the public never sees, where countries are basically trading votes and influence instead of making decisions based on principles. He said things like applauding Ahmed al-Sharaa were calculated moves to keep Syria engaged in peace talks. Or at least that's the excuse they give internally. But to him, and honestly to me, it sounded like moral compromise at best and complete cynicism at worst. Then there were the journalists. Maria Thompson, a freelance reporter based in New York, reached out to clarify some of the context. She explained that diplomats often have to balance domestic pressure with international optics. She said some of the applause wasn't wholehearted support. It was just a polite nod to avoid friction. But the fact that it's staged like that, where no one calls it out publicly, still makes the UN look like a platform for anything as long as the right people are in power. It's maddening because you see the contrast so starkly, one speech, and the whole room empties for Netanyahu the next. And the same people are clapping for a former terrorist. If that's not hypocrisy, I don't know what is. I kept thinking about the people who actually live in these regions. Families in Syria, people in Gaza, civilians who never see their stories represented accurately. For them, this isn't theater. This is life and death. And the UN, this world stage, is just a place where decisions happen behind closed doors, while the public sees applause, walkouts and photo ops. It also got me thinking about how easily we normalize injustice when it's framed as diplomacy. I started following social media threads of people attending the speeches in person. Interns, volunteers, students, and most of them seemed disengaged. They clapped because it was expected, tweeted because it was part of their coverage, then moved on. There's this sense that the UN is a show now, a place where people act out morality instead of enforcing it. And that's terrifying. I also reached out to a friend, Jennifer Carter, who used to work as a policy analyst for a UN-affiliated NGO. She told me that what's visible on camera is often just a fraction of what happens, and that many UN employees feel frustrated too. They're aware of the compromises, but have to follow protocol. Some of them, she said, even grieve privately for the people who suffer, because the system doesn't protect them. Hearing that made me feel a little better, actually, knowing that not everyone there is complicit or blind. But it didn't erase the overall picture of dysfunction. By the end of the night, I realized what really bothered me wasn't the walkouts or the applause. It was how normalized it all is, how easy it is to accept blatant hypocrisy as the way things are done. And I can't unsee it now. Every UN speech I watch, every high-profile meeting, I keep looking for that gap between principle and practice, that dissonance between what's said publicly and what's done behind the scenes. It's exhausting, honestly, but I can't stop. So yeah, after all this, I feel a mixture of anger, sadness, and helplessness. Angry at the system, sad for the victims who never get justice, and helpless because, realistically, what can a single guy do from his living room in New York? Post about it? Try to raise awareness? I guess that's something, even if it feels tiny anyway. That's where I'm at now. I'm still processing it all, and I'm still watching, even though it makes me frustrated every time. The UN is a complicated, flawed, sometimes cruel institution. But if we stop noticing, stop holding it accountable, then we're complicit too. And I can't let that happen. Even if it's just through typing posts like this and talking to friends who understand. After spending the week obsessively following coverage, reading analyses, and talking to friends like Ryan and Jennifer, I finally feel like I've processed most of it. There's still that gnawing frustration, but I think I understand the full picture a bit better now. The immediate aftermath of Netanyahu's speech and the applause for Ahmed al-Sharaa got tons of media coverage. Opinion pieces ranged from calling it a diplomatic masterstroke to an embarrassment for international governance. The thing that really got under my skin, though, was the number of people shrugging and saying, "Well, that's politics for you." That phrase, it's the quiet acceptance of hypocrisy. And I realized that's exactly why so much suffering continues unnoticed. I decided to do something small but meaningful. I started sharing well-sourced threads on social media, highlighting the contrast between public gestures at the UN and the realities on the ground in Gaza and Syria. I also donated to 2 NGOs Jennifer recommended, both focused on civilian protection in conflict zones. It's not going to fix the UN, and it's not going to undo the fact that diplomats applauded a former terrorist. But it felt like a tangible way to channel my anger into action instead of just frustration. Interestingly, some people reached out to me after seeing my posts. One, a college student named Lucas Taylor, said he'd always assumed the UN was a purely moral institution, and that seeing the walkouts and applause made him feel cynical. We talked for hours about how international institutions often operate in moral gray areas, and it was refreshing to connect with someone equally disillusioned but still willing to act locally. That made me realize that even if the UN is flawed, awareness can lead to small but meaningful change at community levels. Another conversation that stuck with me was with Maria Thompson. The reporter, she reminded me that while the UN may appear performative, every policy brief, every negotiation, every side meeting has the potential to influence real-world outcomes. The visibility might be political theater, but the work behind the scenes can still save lives. Sometimes, that didn't make the applause for al-Sharaa feel any less infuriating, but it gave me some perspective. I also had to confront the emotional side of it. Watching empty seats during Netanyahu's speech and applause for a man responsible for atrocities wasn't just annoying. It was morally jarring. It made me question humanity in a very fundamental way, but reflecting on it with friends, and even strangers online, reminded me that institutions are composed of humans, flawed humans, doing both good and terrible things at the same time. That realization doesn't absolve them, but it does make me see the nuance. By the end of the week, I felt like I had to make a personal decision. Stay angry and frustrated, or accept the reality and focus on what I can influence. I chose the latter. I'm still critical of the UN, and what I saw. It still looks like a platform that prioritizes optics over ethics, but I've redirected my energy. Volunteering, raising awareness, and talking to informed people has given me a sense of agency. So here's where I land. The UN, as I experienced it that week, is deeply flawed and sometimes absurd. It allows contradictory moral standards and public posturing that can feel insulting and hopeless. But that doesn't mean individual action is meaningless. It means we have to be aware, hold institutions accountable when possible, and make change where we can. For me, that's the only way to make sense of the frustration without letting it consume me. I've stopped checking the live feeds obsessively now. I still follow coverage, but I try to focus on tangible action. Donations, awareness, and conversations with people like Ryan, Jennifer, Lucas, and Maria. It's small, it's imperfect, but it's something. And maybe that's the only way to navigate a world where applause and walkouts can coexist in the same room. At the end of it all, I've learned something crucial. You can see hypocrisy, call it out, feel outraged, and still choose to make a difference in ways that matter. The UN may be a joke sometimes, but we as observers and participants in society don't have to be. Stories number 23. Aita for asking my girlfriend if we can leave when we're at her parents'. So my girl's parents had her when they were a lot younger than my parents, so she has two younger siblings. Due to this, we go over to her house for all the holidays, and just generally a lot more often. Her parents are also more attached to seeing her often as she always lived close, and never was far until she moved in with me. All of this is completely understandable and I'm for it. I want her siblings to know their big sis is always there for them. Anyways, we probably go over every other weekend or so for dinner, often around 3 to 5 and end up usually staying for at least 4 to 5 hours, at which I begin to get a bit antsy and tired. Tonight I was honestly about to fall asleep on the couch and told my GF I was super tired and asked if we could leave soon. She said yes in a few minutes, and then proceeded to have another drink, and 30-45 minutes go by. I was starting to get a bit upset, as we had yet to feed our dog for the night, and knew if I didn't speak up, we would have been there for another 1-2 hours at least, and I likely would have fallen asleep on the couch. I really like her family, but every time we go over there, it's almost like she forgets I'm even there, especially when her friends are there too. She'll maybe check on me every hour or so for 30 seconds, and I'll go into the kitchen where she's hanging far more often to try and engage with what she's doing. But usually it's not easy to be in these girl convos for long. I hate having to ask her to leave. I try to just let her know, hey baby, I'm getting really sleepy and we still need to feed our dog, but often find I do have to press it a bit, or I will genuinely fall asleep on the couch. Also, I have to drive home every time and we live 30 minutes away. She never asks to leave when we're at my parents', but I feel like I'm always watching to notice if she's feeling tired or isn't having fun or something, so she doesn't have to awkwardly ask, we generally don't stay too long either, Aita. Edit. GF does not have license yet. She knows she needs to learn, but it's been slow going,